Buddha.
What is going on, everybody? Shout out to the chat. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully, you're all having a good Monday. Hopefully, you're all having a good start to the week. I'm NFE with the Strike Zone. I'm joined here by former Major League Baseball player David Huff. David, how's it going?
Going great, man. Another day in paradise.
Oh, okay, cool. And I got another guest coming on. He's one of the guys I work with.
Cool.
This is Mikey Mazza from Ford Train Express. He has his own channel as well. He looks like he's having some connection issues there, but all good. We'll just let him do his thing. But yeah, so we were kind of chatting backstage. You know, I know right now you're in Mexico. You're wrapping up your career. How long have you been playing out there for? What's it been like there? What's your experience there in Mexico, man?
It's been truly amazing. I've been out here for 3 years. I was with Mexico City when I first got out here. The way that they found me was on a YouTube video with the King of JUCO, Eric Sim. So I was facing him in live ABs, and they just happened. The owner of Mexico City is a huge fan of Sim, and saw me and was like, "We need that guy." So I was like, "Don't know anything about Mexico. I've had friends that have come down here to play, but yeah, I've got down here. It's been just a wild ride this entire time, and now I'm in Saltillo for the last 2 seasons, and it's been incredible. I absolutely have enjoyed my entire time down here."
Yeah, and it's not a bad place to be, right? It's nice and warm, and you got the beach. I'm sure you can enjoy your time down there, so it's never a bad thing. So Major League Baseball, right? Let's kind of talk about that. So when did you start playing baseball? When did you fall in love with it? Were there other sports that you played growing up?
Oh gosh, I mean, I fell in love with it when I was like 3 years old.
Okay, that's awesome.
I was still in diapers. I have an older brother that was 5 years older than me that was going into kid pitch for the first year, and really no joke, like he's out there in the backyard pitching with my dad, and I want to do exactly what he's doing. So after my brother's done out there, my dad's putting the glove up. Sure enough, whack every time. Throws it back to me, I catch it, go through the windup, throw it again, hit the glove. Then all of a sudden my dad starts moving it around and moves it over here. Boom, 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 boom. About 4 or 5 pitches. Then he moves it over here and he goes boom, 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 boom. And my dad finally realizes, he goes, "Hey, we might have something here. This kid is 2-3 years old and he's hitting the glove every single time. Like, this is not normal." So from that point onwards, I just fell in love with the game. I love to hit. I didn't really like pitching that much, but I was really good at it. And then the more I did it and the more success I had with it, I was enjoyed it even more and fell in love with it.
That's awesome, man. At 2 or 3 years old, that's pretty impressive, because usually when I was 2 or 3, that ball was going elsewhere. So
everywhere.
Yeah, it was going everywhere. It was.
My dad thought it was gonna happen that way. Like, I was gonna be all over the place, but sure enough, it was just both sides of the plate.
So at that point, he was signing you up for little league ball, and you probably played all throughout as a kid and through high school, I'm sure.
Yeah, played. I mean, I tried. My parents were basically like, "Hey, you play every sport except football. That's our only rule. If you get, and all my friends were playing football, and I was like, why can't I play football? I don't understand. Like, it's a good way to get like physically strong and be quick and athletic." But my dad was just like, "Yeah, there's also a lot of injuries in football, so you can play whatever you want, just not football." And I was like, I was really bummed out because all my buddies were playing. But sure enough, I picked up soccer really quickly, ended up becoming really good at that. I loved soccer, honestly. Like when I got to high school, high school, right around there. I had to choose. It was either baseball or soccer, and my dad was just, fingers crossed, saying, "God, I hope he picks baseball because he's way better at baseball." But I did love soccer. I loved it, and I played basketball. And the thing that was nice is in California, our seasons are set up to where you have football in the fall, and then you have basketball, soccer in the winter, and then you have baseball in the spring. So I ended up playing basketball in high school because I couldn't make soccer work as far as everything. And so basketball, as much running as we did, up and down the court, lines, getting in trouble and being like, hey, you guys got full suicides, whatever it is. It got me conditioned for baseball. So then if we ever got like into trouble or our coach made us run, I had no problem. I was just like, yeah, whatever, let's do this. Like, and all the other guys were like dying about it, but whatever, it is what it is. But it set me up for a good conditioning program for baseball. And then all I had to do was just get into throwing shape, and which at that age, it's like, all I got to do is this and I'm ready to go. So it's nowadays it's like, okay, I need heat, I need massage, I need there's a laundry list of things that I have to go through to get my body ready for a game. Whereas back in high school, it was just like pick up a ball and start throwing it. So
so you played several different sports. Just the only sport you were not allowed to play was football. I mean,
pretty much, yeah.
I understand. I've talked to people that have played other sports, and they've told me that, yeah, our parents didn't allow us to play football. And that was probably I'm sure they were worried about you getting concussed or,
Yeah. Well, it was more like shoulder stuff. Like you get tackled and a guy lands on you and you snap your collarbone or, hurt your rotator cuff. Like that's career ending right there. So
100%.
So that was their main concern. I mean, I gave them crap about it when I was at that age because I wanted to be with my buddies. But in the long term, I'm thanking them that they said that and stuck to it.
Well, I think things worked out, man. I mean, that's the way I see it. Things worked out. It's a good thing. Baseball worked out. I mean, clearly. So, I'd say you succeeded. That's the way I see it. But I want to turn it over to my friend here, sure. Mike Mazza from Ford Train Express. Mazza, let's join the conversation. Go ahead and ask your question, man.
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Fantastic.
Good. Yeah. So, when you got the call to the majors, when you first found out you were going up, what was that like for you in that moment of time? Like, you're sitting down with your minor league skipper, you're getting told you're going up, you don't know about it, you think it's just talking about what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, but it's in fact being told that you're going up. What was that moment like?
It was weird because they were so evasive. Like they didn't really tell. So we were playing a game, and they were so evasive in their answers. Because I was like, yeah, we were about to hop on the road and go. I don't know where, but we were going on the road somewhere. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go inside and go pack up my bag and get it all ready for the road trip. And my coach at the time, the manager was Torres, the head coach of the Diamondbacks now. He was our manager. Scott Radinsky was our pitching coach, and John Nunnally was our hitting coach. And so John Nunnally, him and I, we used to talk a lot because every level he was always the hitting coach for the team that I was playing for. So like Kinston, Akron, and then AAA with Buffalo. He wasn't there, but when we moved from Buffalo to Columbus, he was there. So he was always one person that I always try to pick the brains of because, like, when you're facing hitters as a pitcher, like, you want to know what the hitter's mentality is. So he always gave me that kind of feedback. And so he was always one that I confided in and different things like that. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go pack up my bag. And he goes, no, you're not. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, why wouldn't I go pack up my bag to go on the road trip with our team? Like, this is stupid. Like, why are you saying this? And it was just straight over my head. Like I had no clue what they were talking about or how they were going about it. So they're like, so I just kind of said, screw it. Like I'm going to go pack my bag and get it ready for the road trip. So I went in there, packed up my bag, came out, game finally finishes. He goes, hey, and this was actually before the manager called me into his office. He goes, hey, why did you go in and pack your bag? I was like, well, we're going on the road. Like, I just don't understand why you're telling me all this crap about, like, no, you're not, all this stuff. And I kind of, like, took offense to it a little bit. And he was just like, hey, you didn't hear it from me. So when you go into the manager's office and they tell you, like, be surprised. He goes, you're going to the big leagues. He goes, that's why you're not going on the trip. And I was just like, oh, okay, sure. All right. Yeah. I'm like, no way. I'm like, are you guys serious? Are you like screwing with me? Like, what's going on here? They're like, no, we're dead serious. Like, you're going. I was like, okay. Game ends. Sure enough, Torrey calls me into his office and he goes, hey, I just wanted to tell you, like, congratulations. You know, call whoever you need to call. Get your family on the line. You're going to the big leagues. And sure enough, I was like, it wasn't like a sinking heart feeling of the unknown. It was just more of like, holy crap, I did it. And you know, all the people that helped me along the way, I started thinking about them and like, okay, who do I need to call? Who do I need to thank? And like, obviously I need to call my parents. And it was just like rapid fire, just thoughts going through my head. And obviously I called my parents. I called my dad. My dad broke down crying, made me cry. I was just like, Dad, I did it. I made it to the big leagues. I'm getting called up tomorrow. And sure enough, tears, crying, everything, the whole waterworks, everything. So my mom's usually the crier. She was already crying. But my dad is usually like stone cold, emotionless, like always positive, one of those deals. So yeah, that all happened. I ended up making my debut in Tampa Bay. It was the game that Joe Madden fudged up the lineup and put Zobrist and Longoria at third base. And so Andy Sonnenstein, the pitcher at the time, had to hit for himself because they had to take out one of the guys that was playing third base. Oh, so it was like, and sure enough, I'm going to the game. I'm like, dude, seriously? I'm like, all right. So I got a hole in the lineup. I'm like, I got the pitcher to face. I'm like, it's going to be easy. I'm like, it's American League. Little did I know that Sonnenstein used to be like a two-way guy back in college or something like that. And so he could swing it. Had no idea. And so sure enough, I'm going in thinking, I'm like, oh, dude, I can just cruise fastballs right by him and it'll be no problems whatsoever. Sure enough, during that game, he hits a double off the wall. And I think might even scored, like had an RBI on it and everything like that. Just totally burned our left fielder, Ryan Garco. And just complete, I was just like, wait, what? And then after the game, they're like, yeah, dude, he used to be a two-way guy. Like he can swing it a little bit. I was like, well, okay, that would have been nice to know. Maybe I could have mixed in some breaking balls and some change-ups to kind of throw him off a little bit rather than just groove fastballs for him. But it is what it is. It was an amazing experience. Unbelievable. Awesome. Everything you hear about other guys, they can't feel their legs, different things like that, all 100% true.
Okay. What was it like going back to your home ballpark for the first time and being able to, you know, to pitch in front of your team's fans? What was that like? What was going through your head at that time?
To go back home, I mean, all I wanted to do is just go out there and have a good performance in front of my families and friends and everybody. When we got back to Anaheim, I think I ended up, I can't remember because it was all a blur because I think it was more of a blur than my debut because it was like going back home, seeing all my friends, trying to, you know, answer everybody, trying to talk to everybody, you know, see everybody after the game. It was all kind of a blur. So for me, I think I ended up throwing like a quality start, but we still lost. I think I ended up going maybe Jared Weaver. I think I might have went against him, and he ended up like absolutely shoving against us. But yeah, it was so much fun. Even though we lost the game, saw everybody after the game at whatever the bar was right next to the field, and got to see everybody. It was crazy. Everybody from my childhood, everybody from like middle school, high school, everything, college, everybody came to the game. So it was really quite surreal to see everybody there and supporting me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you, because this is something I'll ask ex-players or former MLB players, right? Coming up in the minors, right? I know there's a ton of pitching. There are a ton of pitchers, I'm sure, that are trying to compete, that are competing. They're trying to get to the Major League Baseball level. Like, was there anything that you did that made you stick out? Because I know scouts can be really tough and you have to get their attention. And I'm sure they try to guide you through the process. I mean, what is it that you did that made you stand out compared to some of the other guys that you were competing with?
I think it was more my control. I wasn't a high velo guy. I was left-handed, obviously, but I was mainly like low 90s, throwing, just control, like executing pitches away, coming in, for effect and for strikes as well, and then tunneling to both sides of the plate with multiple pitches. I think being able to throw any pitch and any count was definitely helped boosted my value. And coming up through the minor leagues, like, I was throwing fastballs in glove side, and then I was running a slider right off the same tunnel. So, it was very hard for hitters to kind of pick and choose when to swing because the fastball was ending up under their hands, and it was very hard to catch it out front. And then I was throwing the slider right on the same plane, like literally just one of those. And for swings and misses, and I was punching out a lot of guys during my starts. I was averaging about 8 to 10 strikeouts per game. And so that really helped my situation. The fact that I was reliable and going out and throwing strikes, I wasn't going to walk very many guys. I think I had like a handful of walks compared to strikeouts. And then just commanding the zone and controlling the running game. And all around, I was just kind of pretty solid. But I was never a big high velo guy. I think the hardest I ever threw was once at 96, and I never touched it again. So, but yeah, I was consistently later on when I got moved to the bullpen 94. But when I was a starter, I was mainly like 89, 92 max. And back then, coming up, that was considered throwing hard as a starter. Nowadays everybody's throwing 100 or 100 plus, so it's completely different now. Like if I was coming up now in the league now, I'd probably be just AAA depth.
Oh wow, yeah, because I'm glad you mentioned velo because you said you weren't like much of a high velo guy. And in today's game, that is highly valued. That is looked at big time, especially with the analytics. That's a big metric that a lot of the coaches, a lot of the scouts will look at. It sounds like from what you're saying is, would you agree that you don't have to be a hard thrower? Not every pitch has to be 100 miles an hour. You just have to have good control and locate that pitch in the strike zone. Yeah.
Look at the guys that are in the big leagues now that don't throw over 92. They're complete control guys. They throw multiple pitches for strikes in any count, in any situation. And they're having success. And I think, a majority of the pitchers that are in the big leagues nowadays are high velo guys, 95 and above. And, whether they command it or whatever it is, if they have just a little bit of command or whatnot, they're able to get away with a lot more because of the high velocity. Whereas you see those guys that are 92, 93 or below, they have to be perfect because that 92, 93 is looking like 86 to 88 nowadays because of how many guys throw so hard. So what they have to do is they have to pitch, and that's what they do. And I no disrespect to any of the guys that throw hard, they're pitchers, but they have God-given talent to where they can make mistakes and get away with it. Whereas guys have to work a little harder that are throwing less, like as far as velocity goes, to almost perfect their craft, where effective velocity has to be a big thing for them, where they slow the hitter down and then all of a sudden they're 92 90, 92 now looks like 95, 97 because they pitched the guy a certain way to slow him down velocity, like velo was. So it's pitching. They got to know how to pitch, or else they're going to completely fail.
Right. Yeah. Because the thing with high velo, it's just, we're seeing it, and Maza and I, we've been talking about it with some of the other content creators. There's a lot of injuries right now in Major League Baseball when it comes to pitching, and it's insane. I could appreciate the attraction and the of guys who are throwing hard. I mean, it's cool to see that these guys can throw 100 miles an hour, 101 miles per hour, but I just feel like in the long term, it's going to hurt them big time. And I appreciate the guys, like you, that are more controlled pitching, because I feel like to me, it's trickier, especially against the batter. That's going to be high velo at 98, 99 miles per hour, and you just throw this pitch and it lands where it's supposed to, and they're just like, whoa, like what was that? I can't believe that just happened. So
and a prime example of that would be Greg Maddux. He didn't have to throw 95, 96. He threw 91, 92, maybe topped out at 93, 94, but was able to locate with such precision. So, I can appreciate guys like that, because they don't have to necessarily throw 97, 98 to get guys out. And that's where that appreciation comes into play. And I wonder if all these injuries are caused not just because of the pitch clock, but because of them throwing so hard.
It's if you look at Greg Maddux when he first started, just to answer that point, he was 97, 98 when he first started. When he was with the Expos, I think at the time. When he started learning how to pitch is when he got to the Braves and blanking on the name of the pitching coach there. But all of a sudden you saw his velo kind of go down, but his control got a lot better. And he's always been a control guy. So that's where he had success, to kind of further your point. The guys nowadays that are throwing hard, the thing that you're seeing, it could be partially pitch clock, I don't know. But if you're not in a healthy position upon release, like you're not here when you're about to release and you're just a degree off, or you're down or something and if you're just off a tick, a split second, you're putting stress on a certain part of the arm that you don't want to put stress on, that over time would eventually just break down. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of guys that are high velo guys, if they're off just a little bit and they're not if they don't have their mechanics under a microscope where they're off by a degree, they're going to put stress either on the elbow or on the shoulder, like whatever it is. And you're seeing it now. Obviously with velocity going up, the longevity is going down. So it's very hard. Baseball is an unnatural motion. A natural motion for throwing is underhand, is like softball. That's why you see these pitchers in softball pitching Friday night, going a complete game, and then they pitch Sunday and go in another complete game, because naturally that's how we're built to pitch. This up here is not natural. It's been a sport since it first began. So, I think nowadays you're seeing, look back in the day when I was coming up, you saw, Zamaya for the Detroit Tigers. He hurt himself playing Guitar Hero. He was like one of the first guys to be throwing 100 out of the bullpen. And he hurt it. He tightened it up playing Guitar Hero and then tried to pitch 100 and boom, gone. And he started having injuries. Another guy that was a high velo guy, which you see has very polished mechanics, Verlander. He's always been a high velo guy. And even now at 41, he's still throwing 94, 96 when he wants to. Look how he pitches. He's like 92, 93, spotting it up, tunneling to 3 spots in the zone. And then all of a sudden, okay, I got 2 strikes. I'm going to rear back and get it right here. And he blows doors at 96. That's incredible. The guy has figured out how to do it. And he, honestly, with longevity, he's one of the top guys. You look at Scherzer, same thing. He's always been a high velo guy, and he's making it work at 94 from right here. But you look at these guys, like look at where their arm is upon release, and if it's in a healthy spot, you're going to see them take off and have a long career. But if you see guys that are as explosive as they get and they're just off whatever it is timing wise, you're not going to see them for very long. So just take it in for what it's worth.
So would you say that's the reason why guys like Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, because these guys threw hard as well, is that the reason why they
look at their mechanics? Their mechanics were perfect.
Yeah. So it wasn't like up here, right?
Well, I mean, like upon like plant and then go to fire. If your arm's not at a healthy angle, like 90 degrees, you're going to have some issues. Maybe not now, but later on, because you're constantly just wearing and tearing those muscles that are trying to keep up with you.
And NFV, you and I have been talking about this for the longest of times now with guys in their mechanics and how when it looks like they're pushing it, it's because they're putting too much strain on their and what it's doing is it's putting too much strain on their shoulder, on their elbows, and their arms are breaking down, like David said. And you and I have been talking about this for quite some time, so I completely get where David's coming from, because when I played back at home, my arm broke down and I actually blew my arm out. So I understand where he's coming from on that. But, regardless of that, some of these guys, like I'm going to take Nestor Cortes, for example, who has all these funky different motions. He doesn't throw as hard as most, which is fine because you don't need to throw hard. But Nestor Cortes always seems like he's pushing the ball and trying to overcompensate when from watching on TV, but he may not be. What does it look like when you see him pitch?
When I see him pitch, he's doing all the funky stuff, the timing issues, trying to be quick, different things like that. But it's just like batting. When you have batters, I mean, we grew up watching, what's his name? The guy for the Baltimore Orioles. The guy that was like open and then would dip down, what was it, Batista or something like that? You see all these batting styles nowadays where guys are like bent over up here, but if you look at them at the
Tony
point
Batista?
when they swing the bat, they're all in the same position. So that's how I kind of look at Nestor. Okay, I look at him. He's doing all this funky stuff to disrupt timing, do all that stuff. But if you look at the point of when he starts going down towards home plate, he's in the same position every single time. And so that's why I think with him, he has success, and because he's not having injuries because he's always right here at a healthy position. So I don't know. I mean, he throws pretty hard. I mean, he's anywhere from 92 to 94. So I mean, from the left side, and his ball looks like it rides pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I wanted to grab. There's a couple of questions here from the chat.
Sure.
So I'm going to grab this one question here from Jason 161 River Ave. Shout out to my guy there. So this was his question to you. He's asking, did you prefer playing in the AL or the NL?
I prefer playing in the NL because I got to hit. I love it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And when I was yeah, it's the best. It's like when you're in the AL, you just show up to throw. That's it. But when you're in the NL, like you got to strategically, like plan your day as a starter. Like you got to, take BP, and it was the best. It was me, Timmy Lincecum, Volbeson, and then Matt Cain and Bumgarner. And so Bumgarner and Matt Cain were the two best hitters. So they were always on the same team. And then it was us three. Sorry for that, guys. I don't know.
It's all good.
So it was me, Timmy, and Volbeson, and then it was Matt and Bumgarner. And so we would have like competitions on like hitting competitions, like, hey, situational stuff, runner on first, bunt them, get them over. Hey, runner on second, hit behind the runner. Like you got to pull it if you're a lefty, you got to drive it if you're a righty, different things like that. We would just have so much fun doing that. And then you get in the game and it's like, here we go. And I got my first hit with them, But then again, I also got made look. I look stupid sometimes up there. I mean, I faced Samardzija one time when he was with the Cubs, like right in his prime, and he was 2 sinkers away that I was fouling off, and then he backdoored a slider, and I was just like, I can't hit this. There's no chance. And so I just, put the bat on the shoulder, started walking back to the dugout because I knew I wasn't going to hit it, and went about my day. But I enjoyed, honestly, the NL more than the AL. I really did.
Well, it's a good thing that you came up when you did then, because now the NL, they have the DH rule, and I'm sure you would be so annoyed right now if you were playing for an NL team and you're just like, oh, well, great, I can't hit. This isn't fair.
Yeah.
So, all right. And just one more question here. Oh, go ahead, Maza.
There was a question that I had for you, David. What was your favorite stadium to play in on the road or, as a home player? And what was your least favorite stadium to play in as a road or home player?
Well, I think I'll start with the bad and end with the good. The worst stadium I ever played in, just all around wise, I'm talking like clubhouse, field surface, atmosphere, everything involved in it. I don't want to knock Oakland because they've been just beaten down by everything that's been going on right now. I feel bad saying this because I grew up watching the A's, like going against the Yankees in the playoffs and the whole Moneyball situation. Like I was kind of like, don't get me wrong, the Yankees are the Yankees. Like I was always kind of cheering for the underdog just to see if it would happen. And obviously the Yankees were who they were, and they beat the crap out of everybody and moved on and won championships. So the history is what it is. But I would say just all around feel and everything, I'd say Oakland was probably the worst. I went to what do you call it? Chicago, the Cubs, Wrigley. And at the time, I think they were just about to start renovations on a new clubhouse for the visiting side, because the visiting side was literally it almost felt like a PE locker room. Like everybody, you just felt like you're on top of everybody in that. It was very small. But as far as the atmosphere in the field and everything like that, it was amazing. So don't get me wrong there. Thankfully, I didn't have to pitch. I could just take it all in. It was hot. And at the time, being with the Indians, I just missed the series. And I'm so glad I did, because it was like 100 degrees, 100% humidity, like just awful conditions. But now flip the switch. Now the best stadium that I've been in, it's a coin toss between San Fran and New York. I love New York. I love being there. Everything about it is just completely professional, top notch. Everything. It's like a 6-star hotel in that locker room. It's unbelievable. And then San Fran, I just loved everything about it. Just the atmosphere, just everything about it. The best place I loved to play on the road, which was always so hard to do, was Boston. I loved going there as a visiting team and silencing the crowd. That was my goal. I was obviously going out there to put up a quality start, but every time I went there, the guys just battled and pitch count went skyrocketing. And I just tried to give my team a chance to win. When I was with New York, it was the best. I loved going there. We ended up fighting. We ended up fighting because Dempster hit A-Rod. And it was actually really cool because our bullpen coach was Mike Harkey, the big linebacker-esque guy. He was our bullpen coach at the time, and he's right by the gate because he saw, I think Dempster missed the first one, and then he finally hit him on the second one or the third one or something like that. And it was one of those deals where I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, I got your back. And so I'm sitting there on the fence, and the gate's just to our left, and Harkey's just to my left. And so I go to look back, and I was like, because we have a TV in there, and I was like, yeah, did they hit him? And I was like, what's going on? And before I could turn back around after Dempster hit him, he was already halfway to the field. And I was like, oh, crap. And I had to run out after him and make sure nobody blindsided him or punched him or anything like that. So I was just like, oh, my God. I'm like, Harkey, I'm like, for an old man, you're fast. This is unbelievable. And so, yeah, we got out there, we fought. We didn't fight. It was more just everybody came together and was like talking smack to each other and doing that whole thing. But I loved going there and just winning ball games against Boston. That was always because, I mean, the rivalry is obviously big. You could kind of sense it a little bit when I was playing for Cleveland, but it wasn't quite the magnitude of what New York and Boston is.
Got it.
Before you get on to anything else in the feed, I do apologize. I have to run. A buddy of mine's actually picking me up. David, thank you for allowing me to get a chance to speak with you. NFE, as always, you're awesome.
Thank you.
You guys keep doing what you guys are doing. I will talk to you guys next time. David, thank you again for everything. I appreciate it, and I will see you all later.
Absolutely.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you, Maza. Make sure you all subscribe to my guy here, Ford Train Express. So yeah, man. So it sounds like you really enjoyed your time with the Yankees, right?
Oh yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's top notch.
Oh, yeah, and I've heard it from other people too who have played for them. I've talked to a couple of. I've interviewed Joba Chamberlain before.
Yeah, Joba's my boy. I love that.
Oh
guy.
my God, he is entertaining. He is so funny. Joba. Yeah,
he
go ahead.
He welcomed me in when I first got there, and it was just like completely meshed, and just he was a veteran guy, but he was also like the team punching bag a little bit. So like everybody made fun of him, and then he made fun of everybody, and it was just like great chemistry amongst like the whole bullpen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, I know Joba was a character because like I said, when I talked to him twice, and I'm like, this guy is I would love to hang out with him for just one day because he is hilarious. He's so funny, and he doesn't sugarcoat anything. Like that's the thing I appreciate about him.
Yes.
But which leads to the question, right? We were talking about teams and organizations. Yeah. So Stephen B is asking here, David Huff, which team and organization did you like playing for, and what was your least and why?
Which team that I love? So it's hard because I have 7 years with Cleveland. So I'm a little biased to that because they were the one that gave me my opportunity out of college. They called me up. They pulled for me. They did everything, and it was incredible. Like it was a dream come true, basically. And for being with them, I honestly, I grew up idolizing Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, Jeter, like all those guys that played for one team for a very, very long time. And then Jeter obviously played for the same team his whole career. I always wanted to be that guy. Like I wanted to be the guy that was successful, helped his team win, and just was with that team his entire career. And obviously it never happened, but I have to say I'm probably more biased towards Cleveland because they gave me my opportunity to make it to the big leagues. As far as the least team that I didn't like really playing for, I hope this doesn't burn bridges.
Oh boy,
if I say this, but I think it was more of a way that they ran their organization. It wasn't so much the organization itself. Was LA Dodgers.
Okay.
I thought the way that they ran it, it was even with guys without options. So like I don't know, I'm sure you know, like if guy has an option, he's basically a yo-yo guy. He can be called up anytime that whole entire year, and it burns one option. So I didn't have any options, but the way that they structured my contract is they kind of shot more on the higher side for value. So that way, if they ever DFA'd me, and they did this to a lot of guys, like they paid them a lot of money, and if you ever got DFA'd, no other team would pick you. And it was really smart and brilliant on their side because if the guy went up and struggled, for one or two outings, boom, they could DFA you. No one will pick you up. You have to accept your assignment because you won't get that money anywhere else. And so they just had that depth in AAA and OKC. Our payroll on AAA in 2015 was over $20 million. Like it was the most money I've ever seen in a AAA organization, and they just did it right. They didn't care about the money. That's how they structured it, and they made it so other teams wouldn't even like blink. They'd see you on the claims on the waiver claims. They'd be like, nah, too expensive. Sorry. and you just end up back in OKC hoping for another call up.
Oh man, that's too bad, man. Because I don't know too much about the Dodgers organization. I'll be honest, but like I know, I mean, and the Guardians makes perfect sense because you spend a lot of your time, many years there, and they gave you an opportunity. So, I mean, shout out to those guys, right, for giving you an opportunity. And I hear the Guardians. Go ahead.
Don't get me wrong. I loved everybody in the Dodgers organization. It was just the way that they ran it. Like, I didn't have anything bad to say about anybody in the Dodgers organization. It was just the way that they ran it on the business side was brilliant. So it just sucked as a player. That was the only thing.
Right. So you liked them as people.
Yeah.
You just didn't like the way they did business.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, understandable. I mean, it's such as life, man. Sometimes, we like people on a personal level, on a business level, not so much. It happens for sure. But I heard the Guardians though. I hear they were good, or Indians. I mean, back then they were the Guardians. It's kind of ingrained in my brain now. They're the Guardians. Yeah. For the longest time I was saying the Indians, and once in a while it does slip out. So my apologies, Major League Baseball. But
yeah, mine too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please don't ban us. But But I heard that playing for the Guardians organization, like they treated their people well. It sounded like they treated you really well. So, and I hear a lot of the smaller market teams will do that for their players, because I've heard that about the Guardians. I've actually heard the same thing about the Brewers. I heard the Brewers actually treat their people very well, and which is nice. I like hearing those things. And I know playing for New York, it was definitely for the New York Yankees. I know it was a lot different because it was probably a little more conservative compared to some of these smaller market teams that you played for. Because I know you also played for the Giants, who else? The
Angels.
Angels.
I played Royals for basically spring training and 2 weeks of the season, or a month of the season.
Yeah.
And then Diamondbacks, which was unfortunate because I moved out to Arizona and I was literally 8 minutes from Salt River and 20 minutes from downtown Phoenix to the stadium. And that was the year that COVID hit, and they released a bunch of guys, almost like 80% of their staff. And it was heartbreaking because I was literally right down the street from all of it. So it is what it is. And then the Mariners were amazing. I mean, every organization I played for was unreal in their own way. Yeah. So I don't have anything bad to say about any organization whatsoever. It's just obviously the business side can be the ugly side of baseball sometimes, and it just happens to. Sometimes it works out in your favor, and then sometimes it doesn't. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no doubt. So, like I said, I know you've played for several different teams. You've traveled the league quite a bit, and I know you played in other countries. Again, you're playing in Mexico right now.
Yep.
But something I wanted to touch up on too, because we briefly talked backstage about the United Arab Emirates.
Yep.
So they're trying to grow the sport out there, and I know, obviously the one sport that's been big out there right now has been like MMA with like UFC. They'll hold events there. So what's the game? Do you know game plan? What they're trying to do with baseball? Is Major League Baseball trying to expand there now and have like a professional team?
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to develop a winter ball league, kind of similar to obviously like the Dominican, Puerto Rican, Venezuelan, and Mexican winter ball. There's a lot of popularity out there for baseball. There's a lot of baseball fans out there, over 50 million from what I heard, from what everybody was telling me with Cash Sheik and John and all the owners and everybody that they have on staff. A lot of guys were saying that there's a huge following for baseball, even just MLB. Like, everybody downloads the app, the MLB TV, all that stuff out there, and everybody's watching American baseball. So I think for them, when they saw that, they were trying to bring baseball to them, so that way people can start seeing it. The first year, which was last year, we had the two two teams, two all-star teams, a West and an East, and we played 2 games. And the following was incredible. I think if people looked at the stadium and didn't see too many fans, they were kind of probably laughing and be like, this is a joke. But to be honest, there was a lot more people tuning in via live stream or wherever they were tuning in from over the internet. So for this next season, it's hard to explain because there's so much stuff getting tossed up in the air. I've heard 2 months, I've heard 2 weeks, and now I'm hearing 3 games. I don't know, obviously, what exactly is going to happen this next year. And then I think the following season, they're going to have a full 40-game season or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Don't quote me on this. This is just rumors that I'm hearing from other players that have played there with me, against me. Hopefully, I told you, off air that, Robinson Cano's coming into town. Mexico City's coming into town to play against us. So I'm going to try and talk to him, pick his brain a little bit on what's going on and see if, what's for sure going on, kind of squash some of these rumors and just find facts. So we're going to go from there. They're doing, I think this year they're doing 4 teams. They're looking up other venues. I think what they're doing is they're just kind of having a few snags here and there. Not exactly sure where or what. I mean, it could be government stuff. It could be other stuff. I don't know exactly what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, they're going to bring baseball to the Middle East, and the traction they're getting from everything that's going on is incredible. So I think eventually down the line, it's going to be something great. And we're kind of, with me, along with obviously a bunch of players that played this last season there, we're pioneering this thing and we're fully on board doing it. So it's one of those things we just got to keep going and keep progressing, and hopefully eventually someday at some point we're going to have a league out there and a bunch of players are going to want to go out there. Because I mean, the city's beautiful. The weather's great. You couldn't ask for better weather. The city's safe. You don't have to worry about anything. And it's beautiful. I mean, my best night that I spent out there was not going to clubs or going, to different places. It was literally hopping on an electric scooter at nighttime and just riding around and just looking at the buildings and just the architecture and everything that's out there. It's unreal.
Yeah, and is this in Dubai or Abu Dhabi?
This is in Dubai. They're trying.
Dubai. Okay.
So they have a team in Abu Dhabi, and they're trying to get, I think, either a stadium there or see if they can buy out a stadium for the league. And they're I think, I'm not 100% sure, so it's really hard to answer what's going on there.
Yeah.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep it close, so that way, because there's a team in Pakistan, in Karachi, and you gotta fly in and out of Karachi if you're gonna put a team there, because everything's happening in Dubai, which is on obviously the island of Saudi Arabia, or whatever it is, the landmass of Saudi Arabia, in the southeast corner, if my geography's right.
Yeah.
And so they're all they're trying to keep it all in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, so keep it in close quarters, so that way teams only have to either hop on a bus, because it's only an hour and a half from Dubai. So you hop on a bus, you drive to the stadium, and you play your game. If you got to start flying, so many other elements come into play now, and different things. So we'll see. I mean, Mumbai is across the water there, and so is Karachi. So I don't know what they're going to do. But I think they're looking more in a 2-year span, maybe 1 year, not this year, but the next year, to get this thing fully up and running.
I'd be curious to know what the next step is, what the game plan is, man. I'd be interesting to know what Robinson Cano tells you.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, man, because when I first heard of Major League, or not Major League Baseball, but baseball in the Middle East, I'm really? I was I never would have thought in a million years, because I know in the Middle East they are big time soccer fans. They do love soccer out there. But now, obviously combat sports has made its way out there, and we've seen it with MMA, boxing, and then heck, they're even entertaining WWE. I mean, there's so much going on right now in the Middle East. So it seems like they're trying to, get tap into those markets and see if they can get some fan attraction. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what these next 10, 15 years looks like. When when baseball gets even bigger, right? So I'm curious to see what happens. And there was another question here by Ken. So Ken he's been a baseball fan for a really, really long time, but this question to you is, Mr. Huff, when I was a D1 pitcher, my worst day happened when I was hit by a line drive. What do you think the MLB should do to help protect pitchers from injuries of this nature?
Well, first off, Ken, I got to tell you, buddy, you're not the only one to get hit in the head. I myself got hit in the head in 2010, actually in Yankee Stadium, pitching for the Indians. And A-Rod hit me. I threw a changeup that was just up and kind of in the zone a little too much, and he hammered it right back at me, and I couldn't move fast enough to try and get it. What MLB should do, it's all recommendations at this point. You saw the one guy with the Padres that was wearing the Mario hat. I thought that was a little extreme. There used to be this batting glove company that had like this padding on their hand that it was a certain type of rubber and how condensed it was. It would take a 90-mile-an-hour fastball and lessen the blow to like a 45-mile-an-hour fastball or whatever it was. Whatever that was, I never did reach out to the company, but my plan after getting hit in the head and, trying to put it behind me was, why wouldn't you just line the inside of the hat with that protective lining? And so the hat still looks normal, but you have that protection in case you get hit again. Obviously you don't have the protection of your face. Like it is what it is. Back then the average velocity on a fastball, I think, was like 93, 94, something like that. So it was a little easier to hit. Nowadays, obviously the average fastball is up around 96, maybe 97. So it might be tougher to hit and barrel it up and hit it right back at somebody. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's just kind of part of the job. Like you just got to kind of make a better pitch, try not to miss middle, so that way they can put a good swing on something. My pitch was literally middle, maybe outer third with a changeup that was up in the zone. If you cut it into nine boxes, it was like outside part, middle row. So, it was a very easy pitch to hit, and he just barreled it up and hit it right back at me. You've seen other guys get hit, and just look at where the pitches are. The pitches are middle. It's a mistake pitch that you hope that you never do. But if you look at the guys, like I think Alex Cobb got hit. That pitch was somewhere over the middle part of the plate, and he got hit, and look how he's pitched since then. He's been pitching great. He doesn't make very many mistakes. And his mistake pitches are out of the zone. So I'm not saying it helped him, and I'm not saying it helped me either, but it does kind of weigh in the back of your head a little bit moving forward, because you just don't want it to happen again. Mine was a glancing blow. It hit off the side of my head, and it went shooting into right field. So I was very fortunate it didn't hit me and then just drop. So I didn't absorb a lot of the impact. But yeah, it's just tough. Like you just got to continue plugging along. There's options that they can do as far as, look at all the catcher protection gear. Like why can't we think of something to put inside of a hat or something like that? I don't know. Hopefully someday they do something, because if the hitters can catch up to that high velocity fastball, then it's going to be coming back that much quicker. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like it's impossible to solve that problem. Honestly, it's kind of like concussions in football. Like, how do you avoid it? There's really, I feel like there's not a way, but I know you're talking about there's certain options, but it's not 100% like the solution, it sounds like. So it's one of those things where hey, this is what you signed up for. It could happen. It's you could get hurt, sort of thing. You hate to say it like that, but
yeah, it's unfortunate. because I mean, if you go out there and you're thinking that, and it's starting to kind of take over your thinking instead of processing like, hey, I need to execute a pitch to this spot, to that, to that. There's so many things mentally that's going on. Whereas if that starts creeping into your head to where it's like, oh God, I better make a good pitch here, or else I'm going to get smoked by another ball, you can't really do your job. So it's really tough. But you just kind of continue on. I mean, I try not to think about it every time when I go out there, because it happened 14 years ago for me. Thankfully, I mean, I've had close calls, but I've never had an issue with it coming right back at me. I've been able to get out of the way or put something on it, like a glove or a body part. But yeah, it's just one of those things you try not to think about.
Yeah, no doubt. I wanted to ask you this question. Was there anything that you did pregame to get yourself ready? Because I know pitchers are creatures of habit, right?
Yeah.
Was there anything that you had to do before the game that if you didn't do it, it was just like it was going to kind of throw you off a little bit? Like, I know Wade Boggs is not a pitcher, right? But he had a thing where he had to eat chicken before a game. That was like his big thing.
Yeah.
Did you have something like that, or what did you do pre-game?
I would always try. So I'd always try new restaurants where if we were on the road or if we were at home, I kind of had my staple place, which was when I was in Cleveland, was Anna Harvest, her sandwich shop. So she was at the time she had this little sandwich shop in the IMG building, agency building, and I would go there pretty much every day just to visit her. She was a good friend. I mean, she ended up becoming one of my best friends, and I'd always get like a certain sandwich that had like a lot of protein, less carbs, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And then she would give me a to-go box to take to the field to give to the players or whatever of other stuff. So I first had an outing where I went. It wasn't a complete game, but it was like a quality start. 6 runs or more, or 6 innings or more, 3 runs or less. And so that from that point onwards, being as we're all superstitious, so I went back to that place and started eating there all the time. And sure enough, like the next start, another quality start. Hey, the next start, 5 innings, gave my team a chance to win. Okay, next start. Like I got to keep going to this place. So that became one of my staples at home. But when I was on the road, like if you're in New York, you're going to try and get pizza. Like it's a must. You got to do it. And so in New York, my biggest thing was going to Gina's, because that was kind of like the original, whatever it is. It was the one at like Rockefeller and 51st, the stop on the D train right there. Yep. I'd hop off there, go to Gina's, grab a slice, hop back on the train, take it to the stadium, and just eat my pizza along the way. So it was just one of those things, like if it worked one time, you got to go back to it. You can't deviate, because it's like, hey, it got you another quality starter. It got you, if I was coming out of the bullpen, it got me a couple zeros. Okay, I got to go back there and I got to do it again. So it was that's kind of how I did it. As far as like routine goes, I had the same routine all the time. I always showed up 3 hours before my start. Started my routine 2 hours before my game. Bullpen wise, it was a little different because you got to stick to the team schedule. So you stretch with the pitchers, play catch, and then you take it in. And then at a certain time at home, because our starting pitcher threw obviously the top half, I would start an hour hour and a half before the game, because I was always like the innings 1 to 5. So I'd start an hour and a half before my game, my whole routine, hop in the shower, get the whole arm hot, like scalding hot water, put the uniform on, get the hot cream on, put the uniform on, go stretch, and do my routine. When we were on the road, it was an hour before game because we didn't have to be out to the bullpen until the bottom of the first. It was me and Adam Warren were the two guys that were like, pardon my French, if shit hits the fan, it was either him or me, depending on how many lefties and righties were in the lineup. It was him. If it was more righties, it was him. If it was more lefties, it was me. So for us, it was like, be out there by the bottom of the first on the road, be out there by the top of the first on the at home. So that's kind of how it catered, where like what time to start and everything like that. But it was the same routine, and I even to today, like I've made small adjustments here and there for certain things, certain ailments, different things. But it's pretty much the same as it's always been.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up food because one of the things I always do when I do my pregame live streams, we talk about the game that's coming up, and then one of the topics I get into, and I ask the folks in the chat, I'm like, all right, so what are you all snacking on? What are you all eating? Let me know. And everybody, yeah, it's food is always a discussion on this channel. So yeah. And again, we discussed it with Joba because one of the questions I asked him was, hey, when you were in New York, what was your favorite food? He's like, my favorite food? He's like, all of it. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
All of it is a very legit answer. Like, all of New York style food is, bar none, the best.
Oh, I was born and raised there, so it's like, I love it all too. And he was like, he's like, how could you pick one? I'm like, true, but you're right. But I was like, was there that one food that you absolutely had to have in New York? And he was like, I don't care what it was, you put it in front of me. He's like, I just eat it. So I was like, you're the same.
100%. Yeah. I'm like, when it was New York, it was like anything Italian, put it in front of me, and that is gone in 30 seconds. And I don't know what it is. Everybody claims it's rumors of like the water. Everybody's like, it's the New York water. It's the New York water. And then I didn't really believe it until I got to Japan in 2018, 2019. There was a guy that owned a restaurant that his little niche was New York style everything. So New York style pasta, pizza, everything. Come to find out, when I went there with my translator one time, come to find out, he flew in New York water to his restaurant. I don't know how. I don't know who he went through, how he got it, the whole bottling and shipping and everything like that. I don't know how he did it, but for some reason, he literally, no joke, he flew in New York water so he could have authentic New York style food.
That is wild. Yeah. And, when they, I've heard the same thing about like New York City tap water.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't believe it. I mean, I've been out of New York for a long time, and I met, I've obviously where I live now, I met several New Yorkers, and, they would talk about water, and, and sure enough, I'm like, you know what? I was like, I don't know. This isn't psychological. There is something in New York City water that makes the food taste better. There really is. And yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I'm like, huh. Interesting. So,
yeah. you look at it. So, I mean, I live in Arizona, so we have some places there that are trying to claim New York pizza, New York food, whatever it is. It doesn't taste the same. They may claim it, but it doesn't taste the same. I have yet to find a place that is even close to that.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you're outside of the East Coast in general, and they say, "Oh yeah, New York style pizza." Let's pump the brakes a little bit, right?
I mean, the only thing that has come close is guys that they're from New York, and they have this family like run restaurant that's like generational restaurant, and that's about as close as it's gotten. But even still, it's like if they're not using, I don't know. It could be rumor. If they're not using the water, I don't see it panning out as something great.
Yeah, no, agreed. And before we continue the conversation, how are you doing on time? I just want to be respectful.
Oh, I'm fine.
You're good. Nothing. Oh, yeah. Awesome. I love it. Yeah, no, we're gonna keep it rolling here. But obviously we talked about like you played for several different teams, several different leagues. Do you like play? So I know you said you like playing in Mexico. Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy your time in Japan as well?
Oh yeah, loved it. They're just really? They are perfectionists in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came to food, it was the craziest thing. So obviously now being in Mexico, I've had a lot of Mexican food. that is unbelievable here. Like, there's something about authentic country food that just makes it better. Japan, on the other hand, they're trying to perfect all the food, no matter what it is, Mexican, Italian, American, French, whatever it is, even Indian, like everything. They're trying to perfect everything. I think the closest I've come to real authentic Mexican food was this guy. It was 444 Broadway. It was a food truck just outside of a grocery store. So if you ever rent out any produce or guacamole, like guac, avocados, tomatoes, anything, he just run right in it. He's like, hey, give me 5 minutes. Run right into the grocery store, buy up all the stuff, chop it right in front of you. You were getting fresh stuff every single time. It was honestly the best. I wouldn't say better than what I'm having now, but it was the best Mexican food outside of Mexico that I've ever had.
Wow.
There was even a guy that was in a basement that is literally no bigger than the apartment that I'm in. That it was called El Paso, and it was unreal, authentic Mexican food. It was insane. Obviously, their sushi's bar none the best.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of ruined sushi everywhere for me because it was just so delicious.
Well, getting spoiled in Japan, I mean.
You did completely. And yeah, it's just like they're perfectionists. They're trying to perfect everything for tourism, for just everything. It's unreal.
Yeah, no, and I've heard that about Japan. They're very particular. They're, like you said, they're perfectionists. So I mean, I think that's just part of their culture, So
yeah,
it's part of who they are. As far as playing for all the different leagues, which league did you enjoy the most out of all of them?
So every league had like something special on its own. I played in Korea for 2 years. Had an absolute blast. My wife loved it. The only hard thing was obviously communication and finding places to go and shop, like groceries, and go and find certain things in restaurants. Mm-hmm. It's just hard to read the language, obviously, because we're not used to the symbols and everything.
Right.
Japan was really cool in its own. It was very much. We were in Tokyo, so there wasn't really much of a language barrier. Like, yeah, I learned a lot of Japanese to communicate and get around in a taxi, like tell them which way to go and everything like that. But for me, just looking at signs, all the signs were in Japanese, and then underneath it was English, especially in Tokyo. So it was a lot easier to like find places and restaurants. And then they had international places that, like, there was this place called Bill's. That's an Australian brand. That's a breakfast spot. There was another place called Earth Cafe, which is like a California spot, which I was shocked to even see. I was like, wow, that's really cool. So it's just, it was a lot easier to get around, a lot easier to find things. I mean, I played winter ball in Australia, and that's where my wife's from. So, I mean, we got to go home. I got to see my in-laws. I got to see, different parts of Australia, which I haven't seen. So I love that. I played in, what else? Played in obviously Mexico, and love it here. I think the only leagues that I haven't played in were any of the winter ball leagues, like the Dominican Republic or anything like that, Taiwan, and then any of the European circuit were the only three leagues that I really like. Only 3 or 4 leagues that I really haven't played in. So as far as all of them go, I mean, they all are awesome in their own right. So really love the fan base in all the places. It's electric in Korea. It's absolutely same thing in Japan. Like, if you ever get a chance to go and catch a ball game out there in either one of those countries, you're going to be absolutely amazed and kind of wish American baseball was like that, because it's completely a rock concert during the game.
And I've heard that, and I'm sure when you're playing in Japan as opposed to like the U.S., because obviously here in the U.S., and I'm sure you have experienced it. If you had a bad outing, American fans are going to boo you, right? Like they're going to boo you. If you're having to play in a bad game, whether you're a pitcher or you're a batter, I mean, they are going to boo you if you're slumping or not performing up to their expectations. Whereas in places like Japan, they're trying to support you. The fans are trying to support you. They're still clapping for you. Like, they're like, hey, it's okay. You got this, like, words of encouragement. So it's just great. It's just nice to, different to see like the different cultures and how the fans, react to players, how they show their love to the players. And that's why I was wondering, like, hey, was there a league that you enjoyed the most? But like you said, I mean, I'm sure, Major League Baseball, I'm sure it's had a lot of its perks, and a lot of the countries that you played in had a lot of its perks. So that's cool. That's really great. I mean, I'm sure, again, with playing in different countries, I always wonder too, if like players have a difficult time because of the culture, the language barrier, because of the lifestyle. Do they have a hard time adapting to those lifestyles? So it sounds like everything really, really worked out for you.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, the first year in those foreign countries, I was a little tough. But then the second year, I started exploring a lot more and knew like where to go and the ins and outs of the cities and everything like that. So you just get, I mean, obviously, I wish I could have played longer out there. I thought I was doing well enough to almost finish my career out there, which would have been amazing. But it is what it is. I think, the more you're out there, the more comfortable you get, and the more you start kind of going like back alleyways and finding hidden gyms and different things like that, and restaurants and places, whatever it is. And it's really cool. And it just becomes kind of like a hobby. Like all the stuff outside of baseball becomes a hobby, and you go and try and find really cool places. Like even if you're countryside, like for instance, the Kobe beef steaks that are out of Japan from Shin Kobe. Like you want to go and on an off day or during All-Star break and venture down there on the bullet train and go get like an authentic Kobe steak. And I was lucky enough to. I only did it one time. I didn't go to Shin Kobe, but I went to like a steak restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a little scary when you see the Kobe steak on the menu and there's no price. And it's like, okay, don't know if I want to do this, but I want to live a little bit. I want to say that I've done it, and I tried it. And it was hands down probably one of the best steaks I've ever had, if not the best. And I mean, you come back here to the States and you order like a filet or something similar to like the Kobe, and it's just not the same. It's just not. Like it. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's just not like the same quality of what you're getting out there from that home country. Like, I mean, we did Korean barbecue when I was in Korea. It was hands down the best tenderloin, sirloin. I mean, you could think of. It was you saw very little like pink. It was all red. Like you're getting a good piece of meat, and you're just like, dude, this is. And you're sitting there cooking it yourself with the tongs and the little like center barbecue like in the middle of the table and everything, and flipping vegetables around and onions and garlic and all this. It was unreal.
All this food talk is getting me hungry, man.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm like,
no, you're good. You're good. No, I appreciate it. Like I said, we talk food on this channel too, man. So no, it's cool to hear the different experiences that you went through, and no, that's awesome, man. It's good. You live life once, man. So if you have the opportunity, by all means, go. You go explore it. And the other thing I was going to ask about playing in some of these countries, I'm sure it's less pressure for you as a player, as opposed to playing in Major League Baseball.
I mean, the pressure's still there. I think it's always there, like to a certain extent. I mean, like even down here in Mexico, like if you don't have a good outing, they're gonna boo you and tell you you're an a-hole for pitching terrible. And then you turn around and you pitch great, and they're like praising you and doing all this other stuff. It's like, well, you just told me to kill myself or quit baseball like last week. Like, how does that change? Like, I had an experience where I was with the Diablos 2 years ago, and I was pitching really well all season, and I ended up struggling one game, and it actually ended up getting rained out and washed. So like, I pitched the first inning against Guadalajara. They absolutely took it to me, put like 6 runs up. I didn't even record an out, and I got taken out of the game. And so, sure enough, before the 5 innings hit, we got rained out and it wiped out the game completely. Well, people on Instagram started hitting me up and being like, "You're the worst. You're this. You're that." Whatever they said, whatever garbage and rubbish they said.
Yeah.
And so I was at a point in my career where, I mean, it's only 2 years ago. I was at a point where, like, if I was younger, I wouldn't say anything. Whereas, like, I'm older, and I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna say something back to this guy and see what happens. So I replied back and I said, "Wow, you're really a great fan," like something like that, something in that regard. It's very passive aggressive. Been pitching well all season, and the one time I have a bad outing, you're now going to chirp at me, like you're a really great fan. And I just left it at that. And the guy like came back, was like, "Oh my God, you replied like, oh, I'm sorry, you're the best. I love you." Like all this. It's like he sent it out to the universe and he didn't expect anything back.
Yeah.
It was like, nobody's gonna read it. Nobody. It's like, dude, you sent it to me directly. Like, what do you mean nobody's gonna read it? Like, I don't know. Back in the day, social media wasn't a thing, and you never had to hear about this crap. But nowadays, it's like social media is everywhere, and you see this crap everywhere, and it's just like, enough's enough. Like, we're people. We're humans. We make mistakes. We don't pitch well all the time, but we try to. And it's like, leave us alone, dude. Like, you think I'm going to go to your 9-to-5 job and be like, "Oh, you suck. You hit that key wrong." Like, it's like, come on, dude. Like, you didn't get the memo. You're an idiot. Like, like, come on. Like,
no, excellent points. And you know what, man? It's like people like that are just, they're referred to as trolls, and they're just a bunch of tough guys on the keyboard. That's all, man. I always make fun of those types all the time. So, yeah.
I usually try to ignore them. I try my best to ignore them, but sometimes it just becomes too much, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to say something.
Yeah, like I'll ignore them, but I just laugh. Like I don't reply to them. I'm just like, okay, dude, whatever you say. Like, all right. Like if it's so easy, you go out there and play, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to that old saying: haters are going to hate. And it's just like, you just go about your business and do your thing and get ready for the next one.
Absolutely. No, 100%. I love it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, fans are fans, man. I mean, they're a dime a dozen. So
it is what it is, man. It's
yes,
nothing
sir.
to do. It's stuff you can't control, and you just kind of try to move on and just go about your business.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. 100%. So I got a few more questions here from some of the members. So Javier Velez, what's up, man? He's asking Mr. Huff, who is the player you like the least? Oh man. He laughs.
There was one guy that got traded over to the Indians. I can't recall his name right now because he was just that bad of a teammate and player.
Oh wow.
If I were to look him up, let me see, because I want to make sure I get this name right.
What year was this?
And I hope he doesn't listen to this. Let's see. It was 2013 Indians roster.
Was he a pitcher?
He was a pitcher.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. Here we go.
You're good.
Roster. I know I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna be like, that guy. Brett Myers.
Brett Myers?
I don't know if you guys remember. I mean, he longtime big leaguer, salty, just. I think he started back in the early 2000s was his career, and then he finished up around 2013. I mean, we had, I'm looking at the roster right now. We had some really good names.
Yeah, actually had some good names on that year, actually.
We had Ubaldo Jimenez. We had Rich Hill. Carlos Carrasco was a rookie. Matt Albers. Cody Allen was a rookie. Trevor Bauer was there.
Oh, man.
Scott Kazmir was with us. Corey Kluber. Yeah. Justin Masterson. So we're this is the kind of guy that this guy is. Okay, so we're in spring training, and our clubhouse is all kind of young. Like we had Jason Giambi got traded over to us for his like final season or something like that.
Yep.
And he's awesome, best. Justin Masterson, I don't know if you've ever talked to him or met him or anything like that, but he is very intimidating because he's like 6'7", 6'8", just looks like a linebacker in the NFL, but he is like the nicest, gentlest person in the world. And so he was our captain. He was our ace at the time. And we're in spring training, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just minding my business, doing my daily routine, whatever it is, whatever we're doing. And Masterson's like, oh, I'm going to go get some fan mail and sign some fan mail or whatever. And, because he gets like stacks. So he grabs his mail, and Myers comes in out of nowhere and just kind of hits it out of his hands. Mail flies everywhere and keeps walking. Doesn't say a word. Now, when he was coming up back in his era, that was normal. And I think we were kind of transitioning into what baseball is nowadays. It wasn't like you had a little bit of the rookie hazing, made fun of guys, the whole veteran guys taking rookies under their wing, different things like that. We were all kind of transitioning to that new phase.
Mm-hmm.
He was very much stuck in that old phase. So he goes in the training room, comes back out, and Masterson's on the ground, like picking up his mail, like cleaning it up. Just him, and maybe like one other player. And Myers comes in, and he goes, oh, you didn't get a clubby to pick that up? And Masterson goes, no, why? And he goes, why would I get a clubby to pick up my mail that's on the floor? And so it was just kind of one of those things. And then it was like, as the season went on, everybody just kind of separated themselves from that guy because he was that guy. And it was just one of those things I like everybody respected, pulled for, hey, I got your back. We're teammates, we're brothers, like all this stuff. But with him, it was just like, yeah, just kind of I'm going to stay out of your crosshairs. You just leave me alone. Kind of one of those deals. And eventually he struggled and got released. I think eventually retired. I don't know. But he's got a long resume of success in the big leagues. But it was just weird. He was one of those guys that was just kind of like a douchebag.
Yeah, sounds like it. My goodness.
I mean, there's another story I could tell, but I don't want to tell that. I don't know if it's for. It might be too extreme to where people might start calling him out for his antics, and he's been retired for 13 years, so it's like whatever.
I'll leave that up to you, but on this channel, it's like, hey, you know what, man? I'm not.
I think it's one of those ones that stays behind closed doors. I'm sorry, unfortunately.
Nah, you're good. You're good.
He was probably one of the worst teammates I've ever played with.
Yeah. Like I said,
played with a lot of really good ones. Don't get me wrong, a lot of really good ones.
No doubt. Yeah, and like I said, if you don't want to get into it, you don't have to. I mean, on this channel, I'm just like, you could say whatever you want. I'm independent, man. So it's like, hey,
I got you.
But on a more positive question now.
Yeah.
Jack is asking, who is your favorite player then and now? I don't know if he meant favorite teammate, or I think if he's asking like who you're.
I think probably when I was growing up, maybe.
I
can give all three. I can give growing up, playing, and now if he wants that.
Yeah. Go for it.
Growing up, being a pitcher, I always idolized left-handed pitchers. So for me, like when I was younger, like not in high school yet, it was the Tom Glavines. It was Greg Maddux and John Smoltz. Those were the three that I always watched.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Pettit was another one growing up. And the nice thing was I watched him growing up, and then I got to play with him his last and final season.
Yeah.
Just a dream come true. Like I was always talking to him. I'll tell you a story.
Go for it, please.
So obviously we all know Andy Pettit had the best pickoff move to first base. Everything looked exactly the same. So I asked him one time when I was playing with him, I said, hey, I'm like, what makes your move so great to first base? He's like, I just don't understand. Like, everything looks the same and guys just can't pick it up, and you pick everybody and their brother off. And he turns to me and he goes, I just think like I'm going to home plate. And I'm just like, seriously? There's no like special something? He goes, no. He goes, I get the pick sign, or I feel like I'm going to pick, and I just say, okay, going to home plate. And it's like it's the simplest mindset. And I'm sitting here trying to like do the same thing, and I can't pick anybody off. So what I did is I always just try to be quick to home plate and give my catcher a chance to throw somebody out. With him, it was just crazy watching him pitch and pick people off. So growing up, that's who I watched. Playing, my biggest thing that I really enjoyed, I'd say three players that I really enjoyed playing with, playing against. That I would always, whenever I got a scouting report of a team, I'd always try and find their video of when they pitched against that team, because it was very similar to what I did and what they did. I had the pleasure of playing with Cliff Lee. He really helped me out starting. His biggest mentality, was just pounding the zone, full of strikes, making guys swing. Like, he was very much here in the zone, and then he just inched his way off as the game went on. His biggest thing that really helped me out was 4 pitches or less. Get them out, 4 pitches or less. That will help you throw deeper into games, almost get a CG. I watched him throw 1 CG one time. It was, I think, 84 pitches. And it was incredible. The game was like an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. It was the fastest game I've ever seen.
Wow.
CC was another guy that I really liked watching. Not so much CC when he was blowing cheddar biscuits by guys, but more when his velo dropped and he started pitching and manipulating the ball with late movement. Really loved watching him kind of in his later years. A guy that I was always compared to, that I always liked watching, was Cole Hamels. Really loved watching him and how he went about his business and how he pitched to certain teams, and just pitch selection, tendencies, different things like that, tunneling to 3 different spots, just all about it. Nowadays, just watching baseball from the outside looking in, it's tough, because I always like the guys that are like the Kyle Kendricks, the guys that pitch, that X out both sides of the plate, use effective velocity to their favor, different things like that, manipulate the ball late so you miss a barrel. It would be guys like that. I really like Straley, the lefty for the Mets, I believe now, because he was with the Astros for a while. Mm-hmm. He was in Korea when I was there, and he was playing for the Hanwha Eagles. And I saw this guy, and I'm like, dude, you look like a little kid, and you're just going out there and just dealing every single time. Came back, posted, went back to the States, got with the Astros, I believe, and now he's with the Mets, and he's one of like their top pitchers, either out of the pen or starting. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't really been following lately, but he's one guy that I really like watching, because he goes out there and he throws 90-92 and just spots up everything. And those are the guys that I enjoy, because it's like, you have to pitch. You have to be perfect or minimize your mistakes to where, obviously you don't give up anything. But everybody nowadays, it's really hard to watch. I play with a guy, Lucas Ursig. I think he's a setup guy for the Athletics.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I played with him in the Constellation Energy League, in that indie ball league that was out in Sugar Land, Texas. Roger Clemens was heading up. When I played with him, he was a position player for the Brewers. So he was a third base, shortstop, cannon for an arm, hit really well. He was batting like over 300 in the league. And then I think the following year he transitioned to become a pitcher. They got him on the mound, and he was like 95, 97, just at ease. And then sure enough, a few years later, he gets traded to the A's and gets called up as a reliever, and he's throwing 97 to 99 with a very average slider, but something to just get him off the fastball. And now he's one of the elite setup men in all of baseball. So I like watching him because I know him personally. But yeah, it's different. I mean, from growing up to playing to now watching after, it's like I like watching guys that I kind of cater more towards guys that are in the low 90s that don't have the high velocity fastball, but they have something that is either Bugs Bunny-esque or just ridiculous movement or something where their control is just on point. So I like watching guys that are like that.
No, fair enough. I mean, all good answers. All good answers. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like pitching is like what your main focus. I mean, clearly because you're a pitcher, so you're going to be paying attention to pitchers of the past, pitchers now, or pitchers that you played with, pitchers today. So there's a lot of great names out there. I mean, no doubt about it. While we're talking about pitching and pitchers, so obviously from when you started the game to how the game is now, there's been a lot of changes to the rules, right? Now you have the pitch clock. So the pitchers have to act with a sense of urgency. They can't really like take their time and, take 5 minutes. We talked a lot about, the pitch clock gets talked about a lot. That's been a little bit of a controversy. The thing with the spin rate, high velo, that's looked a lot too. And along with the analytics, I mean, what's your response to that? Because I've talked about it with some former players and folks in the chat. Like, I wanted to get your thoughts on all of this as well.
I'm not a fan of the pitch clock. I'll say that first and foremost. I'm not a fan. Baseball has always been one of those things where you go to a game and you don't know how long it's going to take. And I think growing up playing baseball, I've always been that way. Like I go to a game and I'm not looking at my watch the entire time, like trying to beat the traffic home, trying to, whatever, I need to be home by a certain time for dinner. It was like you went to a game and you watched it. You didn't look at your phone. You watched the players. You watched different things. There's so many things happening so fast in the game that you like, oh, it's dinner time. Okay, well, let's run to the concession stand and go get some food. Like that was your dinner.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand how people nowadays are just bored with it. If you're bored with baseball, then don't watch it. I mean, I grew up thinking golf was boring, and then I took it up as a hobby of mine, and now I love watching golf because I know how hard it is. And I watch these pros do what they do, and it's like, wow, it's like art. It's literally like art. And it's the same thing with baseball. It's like you grow up watching these guys, and you're trying to be just like them and, hone in your skills as like a little leaguer. And you watch how they go about their business, how they pre-pitch, how, the adjustments they make from certain swings, different things like that. Like there's a lot of inner workings of baseball. And that's where it's like, that's the artwork of baseball. So for me, with the pitch clock and speeding everything up, I'm not a huge fan of it because growing up and going to high school, going to college, making it to the pros, there's times where you come in as a pitcher and say, it's just not your day. Okay, and you go in and you throw the first pitch, whack, double off the wall. Okay, next guy, whack, triple down the line. Okay, next guy, fielder's choice. Next guy, base hit in the gap, scores another run. As a pitcher, the game is speeding up on you. And there's got to be a point in the game where you can be like, okay, I got to slow things down. I need to calm down. I need to start focusing on what I need to do to get out of this situation. And there needs to be a moment where you can do that. And nowadays with the pitch clock, you can't do it. You physically cannot do it. You just got to go. You either have it or you don't. And with the whole thing, now relievers coming in, they have to face 3 hitters. You can't take them out for matchups. So that eliminates a job from a guy who has spectacular numbers against either left or right, depending on what he is. And now you have to face everybody, which is fine. I mean, you go in and you face guys. You come in with 2 outs, you finish the inning, you're done. You can come in and face 1 hitter if you strategically plan that. But with me, with the pitch clock, it's like especially as a starter, there's got to be points during the game where you hit the brakes a little bit and you got to slow it down. And then there's got to be points in the game where, like, hey, I'm cruising right now. Let's step on the gas and let's make these guys uncomfortable. So it's a give and take. The thing that bugs me a little bit about it is just, it kind of eliminates that scenario where mentally you cannot rest during the inning or or hit like the reset button. It's got to be quick. And for me, that's always been a strong suit of mine, is being able to like take the crap and then reset and refocus and get after what I need to do, and then get out of the inning, or limit the damage and then move on to the next inning. So for me with the pitch clock, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think from the very get-go, it's great. The game's moving along, but I've always been a firm believer that, like, baseball, there's no clock. Like, there shouldn't be. You go there, you're going to a baseball game, you're going to be there for at least 4 to 5 hours, and enjoy it. Enjoy every aspect, the music, the PA system, whatever in between inning shows that they're doing, whatever they're doing on the field, obviously. Getting autographs, sitting there, enjoying time with your dad, your mom, whoever takes you to the game, your buddies, like whatever it is. Like, I take my kids to spring training games. They love it. And it gets to a point where it's like, hey, we're going to go. Oh, I don't want to go. Well, the game's over. We have to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't want it. Like, my kids don't want to go. Like, they want to be around the players. They want to get autographs. They want to, hey, Dad, can we run out on the field? No, you'll get arrested. Like, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just different things like that. I just didn't really care for it. I mean, I know there's a lot more going on that's changing in baseball, and some of it's for the good. The analytics, I think, are great. I think for me, analytics, it goes hand in hand. Like, you need to be able to see what's going on, and then you need to be able to translate what's going on with the numbers. I think they go hand in hand. Like, you can't have one or the other. Like, you have to have a steady balance, I think, personally. I know that in the last probably 5 to 8 years, it's been very analytic driven, to where starters don't go more than 2 times through the lineup, which I think kind of sucks, because it's like, you used to have these horses that would go CGs, that would go 7 innings, 8 innings, because you knew you were going to get a quality start out of these guys. And nowadays it's like, you have an opener, and then you have then your starter finally comes in, or you have a reliever that comes in for 1 or 2 innings, and then you have a starter that pitches for 4. So then that's 6, and then you hand it over to the back end bullpen guys. It's a strategy, and it has worked, but it's not the way baseball's played to me. And they call me old school. I don't know, but that's just the way I feel about it.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a little bit more on the old school part too, right? Look, I think, I think there's a time and place to use analytics, but it's a matter of how analytics gets used. And I've had this discussion with some of the former players that I've had on here, and I feel like sometimes it's a lot of like information overload for a player, and they can't think for themselves. Yeah. So having this information overload, they're going out there playing the game, and they're overthinking everything. And it's almost like you're forgetting the fundamentals and the basics of the game, where you forget to learn how to play baseball, and you're basically being controlled by some tablet that's like telling you to do this and do that. And you're not allowed to like really think for yourself. You're not allowed to make decisions for yourself. And I feel like that takes the fun out of the game. There needs to be a healthy balance, right? Between the fundamentals and the analytics. There needs to be that healthy balance. Analytics it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay, but I feel like there's a time and place though, where analytics can be used, but you have to put eyes on the game, because if you don't put eyes on the game, you're not like clearly focusing on what's going on, right? So,
agreed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about analytics. And
Go for it.
I was in AAA with Tacoma, and at the time we were in Reno, and I don't know if you know anything about Reno, the Reno Aces. It's very hard to make pitches move because of high elevation. So one of our guys was working on a brand new split finger in Reno in the bullpen, and he was throwing that stuff halfway up the wall. So the way the bullpen's set up is the bullpens are kind of right next to each other in right field. The visiting bullpen is literally from the mound to the foul pole. And then there's this really high cinder block wall that's, for the fans or whatever. This player, I won't use any names, but this player was trying to throw a split because I think the previous night he had a rough outing. So they're like, yeah, let's teach you a new pitch. Here's a split. This would really help you. Well, our pitching coordinator was there, sets up the Rapsodo halfway between, or whatever, 3/4 of the way from the mound to the home plate. So the box is there, and our pitching coordinator is right there on the iPad. I shit you not, he was throwing 3 or 4 splits halfway up the backstop to where the catcher couldn't catch it. And I'm out there just running, just doing my cardio for after catch play or whatever to get ready for the game. And I see this going on, and I kind of stop my running and kind of walk over. And the guy throws another one, and the catcher is trying to catch it. And the pitching coordinator goes, I know it was up, but that was actually better than the last 4 you threw. And I sat there and I was like, are you kidding me? So I turned to the guy, I said, hey, I'll just say Jeff. Jeff's his name. I said, hey, Jeff. I said, you see that Rapsodo box halfway between you and home plate? I said, try and hit it. Try and break it. Try and hit it with the ball that you're trying to throw right now. And so sure enough, he grips the split, tries to hit it, and sure enough, it's boom, right there, right where the catcher can catch it. Because the whole time he's trying to aim for the strike zone, and he's throwing that shit halfway up the backside. So I'm like, pick a lower target. And I said, this is an extreme target. You're not going to do this in the game. Because eventually when you take it into a game, you're going to have feel for it. But for right now, because you're brand new to it, try and hit that box. And so sure enough, you whack, strike. And I'm just like, I look at our pitching coordinator, I'm like, you're not going to find that on the tablet. Like, you got to look and see what the guy's doing. And you got to have an idea how to make those adjustments. And if you don't have those, that, like, I guess the old school baseball eyes mentality, you're not going to find it. And what's going to end up happening is that guy's going to struggle. He's going to get overlooked, and then he's going to get passed up. And that's where that fine line needs to be. And you touched on it. Like, it doesn't need to be over analytics, and it doesn't need to be over baseball. It just needs to be a steady balance to where, like, for a situation like that, someone needs to see that and tell them, like, hey, this is the adjustment you need to make. You need to get it out in front and really force it down. And then there's other situations where, like you said, numbers can be overwhelming. Well, focus on certain ones that help you. Okay, what's your highest percentage whiff pitch with 2 strikes, or just high percentage whiff pitch? So say you have a fastball, a cutter, a changeup, and a curveball. Okay, say it's something like that. Mm-hmm. And say your fastball and your changeup are the 2 highest percentage whiff pitches. So if you're in a situation where you can get a punch out, why would you throw the cutter and the curveball, which end up getting touched or misbarreled or something like that, but end up getting put in play at a higher percentage than your other 2 pitches? So wouldn't you kind of cater to those 2 pitches that you have a higher? I know it's a lot, like, right now.
No, I'm enjoying it. So
it's things like that. Like, okay, what's my high percentage whiff pitch? Okay, what I want to know when I'm going into my start is who's aggressive first pitch from the gate, right out the gates. Who's more disciplined? and then do I pitch backwards or do I just read swings? Like different things like that is what I look at. And so, I try to, there's information everywhere, but yes, it does have a tendency to become overwhelming for young guys who don't really focus on numbers. And then older guys that are like, okay, I think as you get older, you're like, okay, what helps me? What do I not really need to look at? Different things like that. And so you kind of just filter out what you don't need and then just keep what you need. And I think at a young age, because you see all these guys are getting called up from AA at the age of 21 to like 24. And they're like, yeah, you got to these numbers, that number, this, that. And it's just like, you see them. They're like deer in headlights. And then some guys are like, yeah, I've been doing this since college. I know exactly what you're talking about. And then other guys, they don't know. So what I've been seeing nowadays is you see organizations that hire guys with baseball backgrounds. On the pitching side, obviously pitchers. But they're finding guys, and one of my buddies who actually is now the pitching coach for the Anaheim Angels, Barry Enright.
Yeah.
Last year, he was the guy for the Diamondbacks that has the baseball background, that is very educated in analytics, and would help translate the numbers and everything to the pitchers that had no clue. Okay, yeah, I'm doing this, and that. How do I get it better? Okay, well, you need to, change maybe the angle of your hand or whatever it is, or whatever he translates to them. And so I think you're seeing more and more jobs open up for baseball background guys that can translate the analytics. Mm-hmm. And then you're seeing guys kind of flourishing because they have both. So it's like you have the analytics, you have the site, the baseball pitching site, hitting site, whatever it is that they call, and they're able to talk to these guys and almost talk them off the ledge to like, hey, calm down. This is what we need to do, and this is how you need to go about it. So that's my take on it. Sorry. I know
all good. All good. No, it's all good. Like I said, man, I here's the thing. I like getting perspectives from different players. So stuff like this, man, it's it opens my mind a little bit more, and I hear different opinions from different players. So whether current players, former player, it doesn't matter, man. So no, I appreciate all the knowledge that you're giving me here. Like I
don't think analytics are a bad thing. I think they're a good thing until a certain extent. Just like having knowledge and experience is good to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. You can't like we talked about. You can't do one or the other. Like you got to have both.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think David. I think teams are really they're trying to find that perfect balance. Some teams are really good at using analytics and like truly finding out what's working and what isn't.
Yep.
And where they're not like overloading players with useless information. There's other clubs that they don't know what they're doing. They need to improve on it. So, it's something that I feel like with some teams, they do a really, really good job with it. Other teams, it's kind of like a work in progress.
Yeah. Look at Texas. Texas is not an analytic. They do use analytics, but they're not as heavily based as other organizations are. And look, they just won the World Series. And
exactly.
Like an article coming out saying like, yeah, we're not analytically driven.
Yeah.
I'm actually shocked to hear that.
I think I guess I'm a little shocked too. I'll be honest, but I feel like they probably use analytics, but they probably don't use it as much as other teams.
Yeah.
Do, right?
Yeah. So, that's what I meant. Like not as much as other organizations. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think everybody uses it to a certain extent. I think teams use it less. A lot of teams use it more. You look at Houston, like they're very analytically driven. You look at Arizona, they are very analytically driven. So, they're not the only ones. There's other teams that are just as much, if not more. So I just know when that article surfaced about, they were talking about numbers and analytics, and they're like, Texas is not one of those teams. Yeah, we have it, but it's not like it's something that is whatever you call it. It's not like the Bible. It's not like we just follow it completely blindly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%, man. Like I said, I mean, like you said, with analytics, it's not bad. I don't hate it. I don't necessarily hate it. I think initially,
Yeah.
I initially when the whole analytics thing, I was totally against it. But maybe it was just because it was the way it was being used.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's just a lot of things that you don't need. You just got to find that perfect balance of like the old school and new school. And I think teams are trying to figure that out right now. And I hopefully, if they can figure that out, it'll be good. Because like with pitchers, right, they focused a lot again on the velo, on spin rate. Yep. And one of the guys that I was chatting with here in this chat was talking about that. That's why a lot of these injuries are happening to these pitchers, because they're focusing a lot on velo and the spin rate, right? So I mean, it's insane. Which leads to this question right here, and I think you kind of touched up on it a little bit earlier, but D-Rod here is asking, how do you manage pitching deeper into games when you're tired and bullpen is short that day?
That's I mean, in this day and age, it's tough because you don't really go deep into games nowadays.
Yeah.
I think back when I was a starter back in the big leagues, it was one of those things like you just kind of trained yourself. Like your cardio was always longer distant cardio. So that way when you felt tired, or you'd almost like your routine for when your bullpen day came, you would try and sometimes what I would do, I don't know if everybody else does this, but I would run myself into the ground and then throw a bullpen. So that way I could at least see what it felt like and kind of mimic those 7th, 8th, 9th, 6th, basically 6th inning onwards. That kind of feeling to where, yeah, you're tired, but can you execute a pitch? And so for me, I would sometimes train myself to tire myself out for my bullpen and then try and execute my bullpen. Go 5 fastballs, arm side, 5 fastballs, glove side, and at least get 4 out of 5. Mm-hmm. That was always my goal. Because I was a big control guy. So I always trained myself to be, I didn't do it all the time, but I did it sometimes. So you go and throw a bullpen and you're fresh and you feel great and you're getting great movement, you're getting great bite, you're dotting up everything. And then, well, what's going to happen after the 5th inning when you need to hit a second win and you need to go after these guys and still be aggressive? Nowadays, you don't see it that much, but back then, that's how you trained yourself to get that feeling, to dig down deep, to think about like, hey, I need to use more of my legs because my legs are there. My arm might be tired, but my legs help me out. So it's one of those things like you just kind of manage it. You kind of train yourself, create more endurance, more stamina, and just kind of go from there. And eventually, all that training and all that cardio and all that, I would say mimicking the 6th inning onwards will kind of pay off.
Excellent. Good stuff. Hopefully D-Rod got his answer there because it was a good question. It was a good question. And here's a more we'll say this question right here. It's more funny. Hopefully it brings out a little humor. It's a little entertainment for us because obviously Angel Hernandez's retirement. He wanted to get your thoughts on it.
He's been around forever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how much I should say. I'm glad he's retiring because he, after, it's crazy because nowadays you have the TrackMan StrikeZone on television.
Yeah.
So people are barking a lot more because umpires would, get it just off, call it, or be in the strike zone, they miss it. And, coaches and everybody's barking at them because they have TVs in the dugout and they can see that it's a strike on TrackMan, but the umpire calling it a ball. You didn't used to have that. It was either, hey, you as a starter, you would earn the strike zone. So you got to command the fastball in the strike zone. So you'd start it on the plate, and this is what like Tom Glavine and Greg Maddox, and this is why I always watched them, because you would see them start their strike zone at the start of a game on the plate. And then you could see them as the game went on, inching stuff off to see how far the umpire would go. And then once, like, say you're going away from a right-handed hitter and you're like, okay, here's on the plate, strike. Here's off, like, black, strike. Here's 3 inches off, strike. Okay, here's 4 inches off, ball. Okay, now you know you got to bring it back just a little bit and you'll get that call. And if you sit there and you pound that spot the entire time, you're going to get that call. And then if you're even a veteran guy, like, you may even get more off the plate. But for like rookies, I mean, dude, I had Joe West one time when I was playing against the White Sox. I had Joe West, and I'm talking, I threw the first pitch of the game, middle, like in the grid of 9, it was the center square. And it was my rookie year. It was his first time umpiring me. He knew I was a rookie. Whack, strike 1, ball. And I was just like, didn't show any, because he does this to rookies. He's known to do this. He goes, I'm looking for a reaction out of you, and if you give me the reaction that I'm getting, that I want, your strike zone is going to go to this. He goes, but if you don't give me a reaction, then your strike zone is going to be on the plate. And I remember hearing rumors about that, and then he did it to me, and I was just like, I don't want to tell him off right now, but I'm just like, it's only going to hurt me because the strike zone is going to go from this to literally like this, and then I'm going to get absolutely worked all over the yard today. And so he did that to me, and I just stone-faced him, caught it, went back to the mound. I said, okay. And I went right back into my thing, and sure enough, the next pitch, strike, and then he started calling regular strikes. Hernandez was a different story. I don't think I ever had him. He was one – no, you know what? I think I might have had him one time. He was one of those guys, so umpires set up on the inside slot. So if it's a right-handed hitter, he's kind of – so if I'm the catcher and the hitter's on this side, he sets up right over the shoulder. Okay? Mm-hmm. And then if the hitter's on this side, he sets up right over this shoulder. That's what umpires do. I took a sports officiating class, and I never understood this until I took that class in college. Yeah. I mean, it was an easy A, but it was like it showed me a perspective of umpiring and how hard it is. It's really hard. And so they set up on the inside, they call it the inside slot. And it helps them call that inside corner, and then they just kind of gauge the outside corner. Angel Hernandez is one of those guys who would always give you about this far off outside. So thinking like, okay, I can bust them in right here and get maybe a fraction of that or something, he would always call a ball. It had to be on the white on the inside slot. But on the outside, you could get like maybe a ball, maybe 2 off from him. And so what you would do is literally like if Angel was behind the plate, you would show in for effect and then go back away off the plate and potentially get a strike 3 call. Every pitcher kind of knew that. You just kind of went with it. And I don't know. The umpires, this is what I say about all umpires. If you're tight and you're here and you can only call it over the plate, then call that all game. But if you're calling this, and then all of a sudden in the 7th inning when I need a strike and you're now calling this, don't. Either be tight or be loose the whole game. Don't see CB Buckner was another guy. Everybody knows CB Buckner. Yeah. Bro, I'm not kidding. I would get a ball and he'd call it a strike. And I was like, okay, let's try and get that pitch again. And I'd dot it up again. And sure enough, he'd be like, ball. And I'm like, dude, either call it or don't. Because every call that you make, that registers in my brain that I could go there again at some point. And so for me, it's like either be consistently tight or be consistently, 3 inches off, whatever it is. If you call more inside, be consistent. If you call more outside, be consistent. That's all I ask for. And so I've always been an advocate of just consistency. Just do it. I'll adjust to you. If you got a tight zone, I'll adjust to you and I'll make it work. So with CB Buckner, Angel Hernandez, freaking
West.
Yeah. I'm glad he's retiring. He's had a long career. Congratulations. But I hate to see you leave, but I love to see you go. One of those deals.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. Listen, it's bad. It's bad enough if we know an umpire's name, it's like that's not a good thing for especially for umpires. If us fans, we know your name.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're listening, but if you're listening, if we know your name, man, like we're probably not gonna like you.
Yeah, I mean, there's other guys. I mean, what is it? Alan Porter. He's another guy that I literally came up to the minor leagues with him. So he was at like every level, and he was really good. And then now I'm seeing him all over SportsCenter for making these calls, and I'm like, Alan, what's going on, bud? Are you stressed? Or are you just not seeing it? Like, do you need glasses? Like, what's going on? And he's always been a guy that I've actually talked to. I mean, I talked to him in AA. I talked to him in AAA. I mean, there was other guys that I spoke to that were really good. I mean, there's this guy Lance. I forgot. He's like super tall. He's I think he's up and down between big leagues and minor leagues right now. Mm-hmm. But his name's Lance, and he was always pretty good. I mean, like consistent. But the only thing is you had to be very positive if you asked him about anything because he had a very quick fuse. So, like, if you said anything negative in his direction, boom, you were gone. And so, I mean, you kind of learn all about this, like, the more they umpire games and different things like that. I mean, we used to joke around in minor leagues. Like, a guy would call fair ball, even though it was, like, bounced on the foul side. And we'd be yelling at him, like, yeah, stay in one night. Like, stop going out to the bars. Like, come on. Like just joking around. And it became like an ongoing joke. And then you see these guys in the big leagues now, it's like all professional, all serious. It's like, yeah, we can't joke around anymore. Come on. Like, what's going on here?
Nah, I mean, you're going to hurt the umpire's feelings, man. So, you know, you do that. So, yeah, because those guys have like the shortest fuse I've ever seen in my life.
Crazy.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, it's umpires, you know, again, I can't imagine what it's like for the players, but as a fan, it frustrates the heck out of me because I'm like, you guys are so inconsistent. I'm like, why are you so inconsistent? And I know the job is hard. I get it. Especially when you have to make a decision right then and there, you know, you can't, you know, wait, 10 seconds to be like, hey, was that a strike or they make that call like right there. But now I know they have like the instant replay. I mean, they're trying to implement other things for umpires now. But in terms of Angel Hernandez, I don't wish nothing bad on him. But I'm glad he's retired. I'm glad he's not he's a thing of the past. I can tell you a lot of folks I know, they definitely were celebrating. So, you know, I know I was one of them. I was like, all right, finally, yes, he's gone.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so crazy because it's like, how much crap can you honestly take? Like, he kept going and he kept doing it and he kept getting worse and worse. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, do you love the stress? Do you love the attention? Like, how do you're one of the most hated guys in baseball. Why would you keep doing it? I never understood that about him. And I was just like, you could be out of baseball, retired, loving life. I mean, I'm sure he's married with kids, grandkids, because he seems like he's in his 50s, 60s, something like that.
I feel like he's older, but I could be wrong.
I mean, he looks older, but he looks young in the face compared to I think what he is. But I don't know. I'm just one of those things. It's like, how much crap could you honestly take year in, year out for being terrible at what you do?
Well, I'm sure the league was taking care of him, and I'm sure he was getting paid well. So he's just like, whatever. I don't care.
Probably.
Like, I'll take whatever crap people give me. And as far and you were talking about see, there's another question that came up because we were talking about batters and pitchers and where the strike zone is. So there was a question here again from Ken. He's asking during the time at a pitcher, it wasn't uncommon for a pitcher to rush back a hitter that was crowding the plate.
Yeah.
Why does it seem that today's pitchers are reluctant to throw inside a batter?
Right, because they're not control pitchers. They can't control the ball.
Right.
They're trying to grip it and rip it as hard as they can. And I mean, you look at a lot of the pitches, they're middle up. Like, very hard to hit because they have that rise in their fastball, the vert that everybody references. Very hard to hit. Very rarely you see a well-located fastball with purpose. Most of the time it's usually, I'm no knock at the pitchers that are in the big leagues are obviously there for a reason, doing what they're doing, but you can see like a kind of a high percentage are not control guys. They're just trying to aim and put it over the plate, and it's either pulled glove side or it's ripped arm side. And so, yeah, you don't really see guys throwing in, and when they do, it looks like they're brushing them back or they just kind of miss up. And for instance, the Bryce Harper thing the other day, the guy wasn't trying to hit him. It just happened to be a pitch that just kind of ran up and in, and it was against the lefty for the Giants. But there's a lot of those occasions where guys just kind of, they're out there, they're like, all right, fastball, I'm going to rip it as hard as I can. They kind of lose their control because they're just, I wouldn't say overthrow, but just throw it as hard as they can. And usually when that happens, you end up losing you lose command of the pitch.
So, okay. So it's just more or less just pitchers not having control of their pitches. And
I honestly think so. I think they have control to a certain extent, but I think when they're trying, like for me, I'm a pitcher that always used to pitch in. I would always tunnel my cutter in on the hands with the fastball in for a strike. And I was always doing that. And I talked to a few hitters that I faced growing, like in Korea, Japan, and different places. And they're like, bro, you're the hardest guy to hit because you literally tunnel your fastball and your cutter on the same plane. And then your fastball is for a strike, which we don't swing at because we think it's going to be a cutter. And then you throw the cutter right behind it and it ends up breaking our hands. So it's like, I always commanded the inside part of the plate, lefty or righty, because I don't want guys to get extended. So I made that a weapon of mine to go after hitters, because you get a guy, trying to get get extended. That's where all the power comes from. But if they turn and burn and absolutely hammer a ball down the line and somehow keep it fair, then you just tip your cap. It's like, look, okay, great. You did good piece of hitting, beat good pitching. But most of the time, like you see guys hitting these home runs to all points of the field. Look where they are. They're up, middle, up, away, and it's where they get extended. It's where all the power comes from. Mm-hmm. Very rarely you see a guy turn and burn, A, keep it fair, and B, hit it for power. Because usually, like if you're going in enough, they're not barreling that thing up. You're making them kind of pull their hands in, and if they do, and they do it right, then yeah, they'll clip you for one. But most of the time, that doesn't usually happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll get to a couple more questions here too, and then we'll continue the conversation. And folks, real quick, if you're enjoying the conversation, make sure you all hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Share this out with anybody you know. I'm with David Huff, man. He's rocking out here with me. Here we are, over 2 hours, my guy. Like you're killing it, man. I appreciate you like spending the time.
I love these conversations, man. Talk about baseball. It's what I've done my whole life. It's what I love. Like nowadays I'm coaching my son in his little league and trying to put my knowledge and experience on other kids so that way they understand how to progress. And it's fun. I love talking shop. Like that's what I love doing.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate it because it's like whenever I get, I never thought in a million years I'd be talking to like former players or like current players. It's like you never know where life is going to take you. So it's like when I have these opportunities, I'm like, man, you know what? Yeah. I'm definitely gonna, for sure seize those opportunities. So I just wanted to say thank you again for chatting with us, interacting with the chat. So I know the chat greatly appreciates it. So, and they're learning a lot today. So I can tell you that much. I'm learning a lot today. So it's good education. Yeah. But
a lot of information that I haven't actually really spoken about in a while. So it's really nice to kind of talk about it again.
Well, today was the day then, man. One of the folks in the chat was asking this question is, do you see masks being used by pitchers like in college softball?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that happening?
No, do I see that happening in baseball?
I think he's asking if
probably not.
Probably, yeah, I didn't, yeah.
I just don't see how it, like, just the weight of a mask, because you're doing such a violent motion. I just don't see the weight of a mask like being anything. Like, maybe you see those like masks in basketball where guys get like elbowed in the face and they break their eye socket or whatever, and they end up wearing those like plastic masks. I could maybe see that, but I don't see like what is it? Like, it's almost like a 1930s catcher's mask.
Yeah.
That the softball girls are wearing. I don't see that happening. I see it obviously in softball because they're at like 45 feet or something like that, like pitching, or 40 feet. I don't know exactly the distance, but they're way shorter, way closer to home plate than they are for baseball. So I don't know. It was even going back to that guy that was in San Diego that was wearing the Mario hat or whatever it was. He was like a small little lefty. He was trying to really push for those hats and be like the face of the company to do it. And I'm all for the protection, but as pitchers, like, we're in the big leagues, we're in the show, we're on the stage, we're doing the dance, whatever it is. So for me, it's like some pitchers kind of see it as like, do I still look like a professional baseball player? Do I still have that coolness? I guess, some would say it would be like an ego thing. Like, I'm not going to wear that because I'd look stupid.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, when I was telling you about like taking the inside part of the hat and lining it with that little rubber foam, whatever it is, that decreases the speed of the ball when it hits that spot, I could see that happening because you could put your hat on and you don't even see it. It just looks like a normal hat. But the whole like Mario hat, I just don't see that panning out because it's just, it looks ridiculous to me.
No, I understand.
Don't get me wrong, it's protecting you, but it's just like it just looks weird to me.
Yeah, I don't see that whole mask thing happening. I mean, no. I just feel like it's gonna just take the fun out of the game in a way. I mean,
I think it would be more of a distraction than it would be like for protection.
Yeah, no doubt. And I don't even know if I could focus on the game without looking at that mask personally. But I mean, I'm sure the fans and the players will definitely have something to say about it. I'm sure. And teams, but yeah, I don't particularly see that happening. And then another question here. D-Rod wants to know if you think framing is screwing up balls and strike calls.
Oh, the new framing, the little like drop your glove and then catch it on the upswing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's way better than the catcher trying to do one of these. I mean,
yeah, no doubt.
The catchers are with the new philosophy of catching, they are stealing a lot more strikes, which is great. And for me as a pitcher, I think obviously it sucks for the hitter, but for me as a pitcher, if you can ever steal a strike by doing whatever it is you do, I'm all for it because it helps me out. It puts me in better counts. The only thing that I don't like about that is when they're here, you see the target and then they drop it, and then you don't have a target there anymore. It's never been an issue for me, but I know for some guys, like, they want the glove there where they want the ball. So for some guys, it could be an issue. For me, it's never really been an issue. I usually aim for small parts of the body. So like if I'm throwing a 12-6, I used to have a curveball back when I first started. And so when I would throw it 0-0, I would aim for the top of the helmet. And then when I threw it 0-2, I would aim for like the belly button or the chest protector emblem that was like right here. So it would just, go start right at it and then drop out of the zone. For me, I'm always aiming for body parts. I'm never really trying to hit the glove. But if the catchers are doing this and they're catching it and they're getting strikes, and Yadi Molina used to be one of those guys. He would catch it, immediately throw it back, boom, and then when he needed a strike, he'd be boom, and he'd stick it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like probably 95% of the time, he'd get it because the umpire so used to Yadi just catching balls and strikes. Boom, if it's a ball, throws it right back. If it's a strike, throws it right back. And then you get a guy with second and third with 2 outs, and he's got 2 strikes, and he goes whack, and just catches it, now it makes the umpire go, oh crap, that was a strike. And then he like freaks out and he calls it a strike because it's Yachty. Like you trust Yachty to frame strikes. And he became so good at that. And you'll see it like veteran catchers that are doing kind of the same thing where they're doing that upswing, catching strikes, throwing it back, catching it. And then when they actually need a call, they'll frame it for a split second longer to get that call from the umpire. And it's not to show them up, but it's just to show like, hey, that was a good pitch. Like, hey, come on. So it kind of almost holds the umpires accountable for calling balls and strikes a little bit, and then you can also get away with some of the stuff as well.
No doubt. So I know you're currently in Mexico playing, right? So is this going to be like your final year and you're going to retire, or?
I had a goal going back to what I used to watch when I was a kid, watching Maddox, watching Glavine, watching Smoltz. Yep. They pitched well into their 40s, and I've always wanted to. It was always a personal goal of mine to pitch until I'm 40. I'm 39 right now. I turned 40 in August, the 22nd. So I'm hoping that we can make playoffs, at least get 2 rounds in, and then I'll be pitching until I'm 40 on that point. Obviously, we're trying to win a championship. We're going to push and go the full length, but hopefully I'm hoping that I can pitch until I'm 40 down here in Mexico and then hang it up and call it a day. Call it a career.
Absolutely. No, good, man. I hope you achieve that. I hope you and the team achieve that. After retirement, what's your game plan after retirement, man? Like, have you thought about that? Do you want to get into coaching? Like, what do you want to do?
I definitely want to either stay in baseball or be completely out of baseball. I don't want to be like half and half.
Okay.
My wife and I are starting up a company for a sport drink that's like an all healthy sport drink, all organic, all vitamins and minerals that are essential to athletics and performance. Nothing illegal. It's all natural. And we're starting with kids right now because we noticed that in Little League, our kids were getting kind of like not the best snacks after games, but we were kind of hoping we could clean it up a little bit with this drink, with Gatorade and Powerade and Body Armor, and they're delicious. But they're not great because they have chemicals in there and artificial flavors and colors that are kind of harmful to the body. So what we're trying to do is we're developing an all-natural drink that has the fiber, the magnesium, the potassium, everything that your body needs to perform in sports. So you don't have the cramping, you don't have the soreness, you don't have anything like that. And we're starting with kids, and then eventually we want to get into adult formulation with professional sports, amateur and professional sports. So
awesome.
Looking to get into that, looking to start that up. And I think, once that's up and going, then I can start focusing more on that. But for the meantime, looking to maybe do some coaching. I'm not 100% sure yet, but trying to get something going in the meantime until that takes off.
I will be looking out for that drink. I hope to see it. Because
it's called Well Day.
Welding?
Well Day. So it's well like wellness, and then it's DAE with an accent mark over the A.
Yeah, well Day.
Yeah, so the DAE is the initials of my 2 boys, so Dylan and Ethan.
Oh, cool. I will look out for, because I'm always trying to look for like healthier alternatives.
Yeah.
Especially for hydration.
Yep.
Because there's not a lot of options out there. What was that?
That's what this is. It's going to be a healthier alternative for sport drinks.
Yeah. And I typed it into the chat here, but I'll definitely I will be on the lookout for well Day. Because again, I'm always trying to look out. I'm always trying to look for healthier alternatives, especially when it comes to hydration and drinks. Water is something I drink all the time.
Yeah.
But the whole Gatorade, Powerade, Body Armor, I'm just like,
Even Prime now.
Oh, Prime, yeah, Prime is another big one, and I've seen people drink Prime, but I'm very. When Prime came out, I was very skeptical about it. I'm like, all right, come on, guys, like really.
Yeah.
And as far as like, are you guys looking to sell that in like at certain stores or?
We're starting small. We don't want to get too big too fast, but I mean, we're looking, our original phase 1 is probably going to be more like Shopify, Amazon, getting it into the local grocery stores like Sprouts.
Yes.
Maybe like I don't know, like a fry. I don't know if you guys have Fry's out there. Just small supermarkets to begin, and second phase we'll start transitioning into bigger markets like Walmart, Whole Foods, different things like that.
Okay.
So, the nice thing is we had a bunch of testers with the Little League and other sport leagues, and a lot of the kids came back and said, "Wow, this tastes just like Prime," and I'm like, "Perfect." So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Awesome. Yeah, because like I said, I'm always trying to look for healthier alternatives. I mean, I train and work out quite a bit too, so like I said, I'm just like trying to figure out, okay, what else besides water? I mean, I'm always going to stick with water, but I was like, I don't want to drink Body Armor or any of that other stuff because I know, like you said, with all the chemicals that are in there, with the probably not good for your body.
It's a lot of sugar.
A lot of sugar too, yeah.
With ours only has 2 grams of organic cane sugar, and then the rest of the sweetness comes from organic coconut powder. So,
okay.
Yeah, it should be something pretty spectacular. Hopefully, we'll get this thing up and running in the next year or so.
In the next year, okay, coming up in the next year, okay, awesome. Like I said, I'll be on the lookout for it, and we'll try your product for sure. So, yeah. And you mentioned maybe getting into coaching as a actor.
I have talked about it it's just tough because it's longer hours, less pay.
Yeah.
You got to write evaluations. I think honestly, what I would love to get into is player development. And I know you have to kind of work your way to that position, which is kind of monotonous a little bit, but if I can get into kind of like a front office, like coordinator or pitching rover or something like that, that would be ideal for my situation.
Yeah, because reason why I was asking is because everybody, players usually they have some sort of game plan after retirement. I mean, whatever that may be. So Stephen B is asking this question to you here: that if you were a pitching coach, would you emphasize control over velocity and ration on ball? I think
you mean rotation on ball.
Probably rotation on the ball. Yeah, it might have been a typo.
Okay. For me, pitching coach wise, you can coach control, and then as you develop as an amateur athlete to maybe a college athlete or a pro athlete, velocity will come. I think velocity is really based on strength training, nutrition, flexibility, mobility, and having stabilization in your joints, in your shoulder, your elbow. So I think velocity, to me, the way I interpret velocity is through weight room training. So through strength, becoming, not necessarily doing just regular big muscle workouts, like training the fast twitch, training the small muscles around those big muscles to be more explosive. So for me, pitching wise, I think what my main goal would be for pitchers would be teaching you how to control the zone, manage the zone. Whether it's with one pitch or whether it's with 2 pitches, whatever it is, or all your pitches, that's my main focus when I'm coaching these younger kids in amateur, little league, teenagers, different things like that. Because you want to be a player that's reliable. You don't want to be a player that goes out there and walks the bases loaded and then punches out the side. Like that's nerve-wracking. Like no coach can really trust you to get the job done. But if you go out there and you go first pitch strikes and you're executing pitches in 4 pitches or less or 5 pitches or less and getting guys out and putting up zeros because you're commanding the zone with multiple pitches, that's a trustworthy guy. And then eventually over time, as you progress and you get stronger and you put on weight, the velocity will come. I do know that a lot of amateur athletes are very velocity driven right now. They're trying to light up the radar gun, be the kid that's, 13, 14, 15 years old throwing 95 plus. And it's like, I don't know if you saw the little article that Dr. Andrews came out with. It was like him and Dr. Yoakum. Like Andrews was East Coast, Yoakum was West Coast. Now it's Elatrosh on the West Coast.
Yep.
God rest Yoakum's soul. But Andrews came out and basically said, like, amateur athletes are not meant to throw hard. They're not. They're not trained. They're not developed enough to throw these 90-mile-an-hour fastballs at age 15. Your body hasn't fully developed. Like, you're still growing at that point. So you're seeing a lot of these injuries because these kids are chasing the radar and the velocity so much at a young age. I mean, even kids that I've given lessons to, they're just like, how hard was that? I was like, who cares how hard it was? Like, just execute a pitch, command the zone. And I have this one kid that I'm actually working with, and he's tall, and he's kind of like growing into his body, and he executes 4 pitches to both sides of the plate at the age of, I think, 11 or 12. And he's absolutely dominating where he's playing. So I'm sitting there going, like, I see kids like that who know that velocity will come, but they would rather focus more on control. And then I see these other kids that end up getting hurt that have little league elbow and different things like that. And it's like, little league elbow is literally the Tommy John of little league.
Oh, geez.
It literally is. Like, you're putting strain on your UCL because you're trying to throw hard and you're not stopping, you're not resting, you're not, these parents, and I no offense to the parents, but they're not conscious of their kid's workload. And so it just becomes one of these things where it's just a snowball effect where they're throwing too much. And then it becomes a problem later on. Like, kids should not be having arm issues at 10, 11, 12, anywhere. Like, you shouldn't be having arm issues at least until your workload picks up from high school to college. Like, you could get away with some stuff, some ailments, some here and there, some soreness, like in college, because your workload picks up and your body's just not ready for it. But then eventually you get used to it. And then you have a transition from college to pro ball, and the workload picks up even more. So, okay, your body needs time to adapt to that. And that's fine. But I think because everybody's so driven by the radar gun, it's really quite troublesome to watch this happen. I mean, kids are trying to throw hard. They're playing year round. They're not taking proper breaks. Like, go play other sports. Go develop that other athleticism in your body. Like, do other stuff. It doesn't have to be so catered to baseball year round. Like, I that's just my pet peeve. Like, just being a coach. So I'm sorry to like vent a little bit like about that.
It's okay.
But I wish parents would either talk to coaches that have education and experience in that field and just understand the situation and just become educated on the situation. So that way they can make those better choices later on. Like, hey, my son's kind of laboring a little bit. He's a little tired. Okay, stop playing. Go play something else. Go play soccer. Go use your lower half. Go play basketball. Go play, flag football. Go do something else. And, I think because they're kids, don't get me wrong, like, kids love the sports that they play. So they want to play it all the time. But you got to find, as a parent or as a coach, and be like, hey, you got to take a break. I know you love this, but you got to give your body time to heal and get ready for the next season.
Yeah, because I've heard it from other ex-players that the coaches or these players, should I say, they're getting hurt at such a young age. I've heard high school players getting hurt, but now you're telling me there's like little kids, like literally like 11, 10, 11-year-olds that are getting hurt.
Yeah.
And that's concerning. That is very concerning. I like, are they really putting that much into their kids so they could make it big? I mean, it's almost like they're willing to risk it all, right? I mean, it seems silly.
It just, there needs to be some kind of, you just got to pull back on the reins a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not so much go, go, go. Oh, another travel ball team. Oh, another club team. Oh, another, whatever. It's hey, this is baseball season. Next season's soccer season, or next season's golf season. Like I have my son. Both my kids love to play golf, and for me, it gives them a break. I know my kids they eat, sleep, and breathe baseball. In fact, they're just like, Dad, I want to watch your games. I want to watch MLB games. I want to watch, whatever's going on. I want to go play a sandlot game with the kids. I want to go do this. And it's like, okay, that's great, but it's not baseball season. Like right now, you're playing golf. Right now, I think today he had a golf camp, and he loved it. And I know he loves baseball, but he also likes playing golf. So it helps him because he's a lefty batter in baseball, and he's a righty golfer. So it doesn't mess up his swing. He doesn't have to do any throwing, like nothing. So it just gets him out of that little routine a little bit, which I think helps. But yeah, nowadays it's becoming an issue. I never even knew what Little League elbow was until literally probably last year.
I'm literally learning about it now from you. I'm like, Little League elbow, what is that?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's literally like the kid's UCL is just getting taxed from workload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sad, actually.
Yeah, but I always reference John Smoltz's Hall of Fame speech because I think he incorporated like playing year-round sports for kids.
Yeah.
Into his speech, and I always reference that, and I just say, "Hey, kid, I'm like, watch this speech. This is one of the all-time greats to ever strap on a pair of cleats." I'm like, listen to what he has to say. I'm like, you may not know who he is, but your dad's gonna know who he is, and your mom's gonna know who he is. I can tell you that.
No doubt, man. No doubt, man. But what do you think? You think we're good?
I'm good with whatever you got.
All right, cool.
This has been insane. Like talking for 2.5 hours. I didn't even know I could even talk. The last time I spoke for 2.5 hours was to my wife now, who was my girlfriend at the time, on the phone, talking about everything. Like,
well, it ended up being good. So,
yeah, great.
But I think, here we are, like 2.5 hours, man. I think we had a great conversation. Yeah. I appreciate you coming on, talking to us. I know folks in the chat, they definitely appreciate you coming on and you're interacting with them. I mean, it's always a fun time, man, to interview current players or former players because it's good to get different perspectives. And today was definitely like we touched up on a lot, So I do appreciate that. And I'd love to get you back on again for sure.
Absolutely.
I don't know when that will be, but I'll talk with Nathan and his team to get you back on. But any plans after this, or what do you got planned, man?
I just it's 5:37 where I'm at, so I'll probably just get some dinner here pretty soon. Maybe cook some food and just chill. Probably FaceTime my kids and go to bed.
Yeah, I hear you. And this is like off season, or no? You're in season.
No, we're in season. Yeah,
you're in season. Okay. I just wanted to.
Today was an off day for us. So every Monday, I think it's like 90 games in a Mexican League season. Every Monday we have off. So it's usually a travel day. So like I stayed back home because I'm not activated right now. I think I'm going to be activated tomorrow. I hope because long story made short, everything's good now, but I was in the hospital from like food poisoning and stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it made me pretty weak. So they were on the road for the last 6 days, and I was just here kind of getting my strength back and getting my legs back underneath me and going from there. So hopefully I'm activated tomorrow, and I'll be playing tomorrow because Mexico City's in town, and I'd love to. They got a lot of lefties in the lineup, so I'd love to pitch against them.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, just going from there, I figure out what's going on tomorrow when I get to the field and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so 90 games in the Mexican League, huh?
I think it's 90. It started April 12th, and we're finishing August 1st, and then playoffs after that.
Wow. Okay. So did that ever throw you off going from 162 to? I mean,
no, not really.
No?
I mean, if you're a guy, you're getting used in the bullpen. You're getting used almost every other day, and then if you're a starter, you're making your starts, and usually have like a 5 or 6 man rotation with the day off on Monday. So if you pitch Tuesday, you throw Sunday. If you pitch any other day, you got 6 days. So usually it's nice. It's a good. I mean, Japan's the same way. Korea's the same way. Like they had Mondays off; those were usually travel days, and then you played 3 games the rest of the week.
Oh, good. So I mean, at least they care about giving their players a break and making sure that they're healthy and good to go. So
exactly.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, David, again, thank you for coming on and chatting with me. Thank you for coming on the show. I enjoyed these last 2.5 hours. This was awesome. And yeah, like I said, I'd love to get you back on again. I had a lot of fun.
It was a pleasure. I had a blast. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And folks in the chat, shout out to David for coming on. Shout out to all of you for hanging in there and spending your evening with us. It was a great time. As always, look out for his drink, Well Day. Look out for David Huff's drink. It'll be out sometime in the next year. Any social media handles?
Yeah, Dave.Huff45 on Instagram. If you guys always want to reach out to me, I got good content on there trying to help kind of prevent injuries, workouts, different things like that. I'm kind of now starting to cater more towards youth protection of injury now. So just trying to help the youth kids out in Little League that are, obviously we touched on it with the whole Little League elbow and different things like that, just trying to create a good base for these kids. So that way, as their career progresses and they get into those more higher levels and elite levels, just trying to help kind of create that base for them to where they have the stability, they have the mobility, they have the flexibility in their body to where they can, perform at a high level.
Got it.
Just tips and tricks.
Cool. So it's Dave.Huff45?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'll put that in.
It's got a little emblem that says DH Elite Pitching on it. It's like black and white.
Cool.
That's me.
Awesome.
So if anybody has any questions or anything about anything, I'm always around and always answering questions to help people out.
There you go. All right, folks. You can find David Huff on Instagram. Make sure you all go follow him, give him the support. Again, thank you all for coming on. It was a pleasure having David on here. It was a great show. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Thanks for the questions. It was a lot of fun. See you all tomorrow. Make sure you all subscribe, like, and share. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, see y'all later.
Have a good one.